All right, let me try to print to the top. All right, so I put the thread at the top. If you follow the hey
Yeah,
markup,
what's up?
so I put the thread at the top. Ordinal's computer and I have just been going back and forth in a conversation. I kind of tagged you at the end of it, but I put a video that'll walk you through the thought process.
So what are you actually trying to achieve?
Oh, I'm just really just playing a thought game of um, for the small percentage of ex Silicon Valley Bank startups, maybe those that can't operate even with the bridged bank. They're probably now considering different off ramps, whether it's to First Republic, JP Morgan, or otherwise. Now, a lot of these startups, if they try to bank somewhere else, will not find favorable terms, if terms at all. And so I was just wondering, as a thought experiment, kind of like almost calling ordinals as bluff. You're like, all right, so you think this is ready? Show me, you know?
Got you. I get it now.
Hmm.
So you are at a distinct advantage because it's end of the day for me and it's beginning of the day for you.
Oh,
So I'm all thought out. I'm all thought out,
okay. So
and
let me,
and I've been dealing with a blinding headache all day as well.
let's see if the suspects that might be able to help. I'm just inviting a handful of people.
I saw
Ordinal.
Casey. I see Casey was listening in a space,
Uh-huh.
another
Oh,
space.
I see. Okay. Yeah, no worries.
But while I've got you, actually, pray tell, what is your day job?
So it's changing beneath my feet. Typically, I've been a headhunter or recruiter, but I've spent stints in finance, had licenses, did stand up comedy for a while when I got tired of everything business related. And then when I found out that stand up was effective at work to deal with powerful people because people find it hard to disagree when they're laughing, I ended up getting back into headhunting and sales and marketing. I started learning how to create my own videos. So I don't know. It's hard to tell. Right now, I serve kind of as a headhunter for everyone else in the group that we have. So if someone says, "Hey, I need this done," or "I need to talk to this kind of person," or want to attract funding, I'll be like, "All right, for the people who are serious, like a Zach or an E Rich, let's see who in the group might be able to help through our
That's,
extended networks." But the idea is that
yeah,
everyone has their own company, so we're together alone from a corporate perspective.
yeah, nice. Nice that you have the potential to build a nice little ecosystem.
Yeah, so we have the ecosystem kind of running in the background, and I couldn't stop it if I wanted to. right? Because the nodes are already connected and they're already transacting together for product, services, bartering, the whole 9 yards. So now I'm just thinking, okay, so there's, for the people who are looking for this type of conversation, we're not really, I haven't really marketed any of this yet. It's just happened. Let me just see who comes in. I'll open up a space. Sometimes I won't even invite people. I'll just open it up and see who pops in.
So you know what I'm thinking here, right? So what
Mhm.
I'm thinking here, and it's I find it's both a valid service, but it also has its challenges. So I'm thinking here, an incremental upgrade. What you're quote unquote building is an incremental upgrade on an Upwork. Because if you think about it from an
Mhm.
Upwork, and as I said, it's a good, it's a good platform. It fills a need. So, I have a task, I have a project, I need a person, and I can post that project up on Upwork to the community, and people will bid for it, or if I put a price
Well,
down or whatever it might
I
be, and
like.
that's okay. But the problem is, people send me, they show their portfolio, their CVs, etc., etc. But what is real? What is actually real? And
Yes.
actually, how good how good are they? So if I want a coder, and lots of people say they can code, but there's a difference between a 10x coder and a 2x coder. And I won't go into
Hmm.
the detail on that, but
I know. I
what I
know. Yeah.
can do, yeah, in a conversation, I can find out, because I can scratch beneath the surface in a conversation about how good people actually are at that particular role. So what you have here in Twitter Spaces, potentially, you could almost have like office hours,
Hmm.
and you could sort of post up the various tasks, projects that need a fulfillment, and then people could come into the space, and it's a conversation, um, for want of better words, bid
The
type process, as opposed to a paper based type process. That makes sense?
Yeah. It's a part of me thinks of the phrase social Upwork, because I found that Mohit said this, that content isn't king, connection is. And so when I
Yeah,
find that people interact often without any business interest whatsoever, they come to like and trust each other selectively. And that like and
yeah,
trust eventually finds itself in a DM. But nobody knows that
yeah,
more
yeah,
than
yeah.
that. Yeah.
No, no, no. I totally agree, because how do you, if I'm having a conversation with you, and it doesn't matter whether it's face to face or in an audio channel, it doesn't matter. But if I have a conversation with you, very, I won't say early, but after a period of time, I will be able to gauge whether you are A, authentic, uh, B, credible, and C, trustworthy. I can gauge that from a conversation. Humans can gauge that, or most humans should be able to gauge that. And you fell into my clever trap, because I knew you were going to raise the word social, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I've been thinking about social all night because of that that space with Maslow's hierarchy of needs last night. And I only sleep 3 or 4 hours a night as it is, but actually I only slept 2 hours last night, because I was just running it through my mind and thinking, no, those people didn't get it. Because the key fundamental part that's missing in Maslow's hierarchy of needs is we are social creatures, and we need social interaction. And yes, people will call that, maybe they put it in that bucket that's family and friends, but that's family and friends, right? That's a totally different thing. It's like this here, having a conversation with you. It's like going to a bar. We, by nature, are social animals, and we need that. That is a need stroke requirement of our daily lives. Anyway, I'll leave that there, and shut up. But I
One
couldn't
of
I
the
couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more on the social aspect here in relation
one
to this particular business startup.
One of the things that like really changed the trajectory for both the wifey and I was when we met Zach, because I had come from, she has a background in biology and evolutionary ecology. I have a background in business, but neither of us
No,
have a
no,
background.
whoa, don't trust that Zach guy. No, don't fucking trust him. Anyone
Well,
who's
the
an
thing is,
ex-service.
he sent me the PDFs of the military decision making process, and I was like, oh, I think this could be useful to move beyond me being a personal executor, because I never figured out the system to remove myself from the process, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Oh God, yeah, so many business speak's going to come up now. You know, we as individuals, we get in the way. We talk about get out of the way. Sometimes we talk about get out of your own head, which is why I talk about reflection. Reflection is probably one of the best skills that leaders in business could work on nowadays. Because if you think about it, if you're doing I won't say a 9 to 5, but if you're doing an 8, 10, 12 hour day, you're typically sat at your desk, you're going into meetings, you're out of meetings, you even probably have lunch at your desk. Where do you find space in your own head, in your own time, to actually think things through and maybe reflect on decisions that you might have made or things that you might have said or actions that you might have taken? We just don't give ourselves time for that. And I think it's so, so important in today's fast paced world.
Here's an alternative to Maslow that I think could be useful. It's the map I put at the top. They did gamification research, and they found that players in a game look to optimize for experiences of purpose, mastery, autonomy, relatedness, change, and rewards. And so, for you to have an engaging game, the idea was to have gamified design elements that created experience of purpose, mastery, autonomy, relatedness, change, and rewards. Different players want different things from any one ecosystem. Some people just care about the leaderboard. Other people want to interact with people and feel like they're helping other people level up. Some people just want to break the system. And it turns out if we turn the breakers of the system to resilience makers of the system, those are often the best people to have on board. So that's the way the other way I think of, the experiences that people naturally seek out.
Yeah, just taking a quick look at it now. I'm out walking the dog, so it's difficult to deep dive, but I will deep dive into it later. But just on the face of it and looking at the component parts, that seems a little bit more relevant to me for the modern world. And that
Mhm.
for me is where, things like Maslow, it's interesting. I mean, you understand education. For I want to say 30 years. For 30 years, people in education and in corporate learning talked about creating uh, educational assets for particular learning styles.
Knowledge
We
management,
Well,
KM.
no. We all apparently had a particular learning style. And I remember being on stages with professors from some of the most esteemed universities in the world, talking about learning styles. You have a particular learning style. So you're either a kinesthetic learner or you're an auditory learner, etc., etc.
Read,
And
write, and visual. Yep.
yeah, and it got debunked, and rightly so, it got debunked because there is absolutely no way that we have a one style of learning. We have many styles of learning. We might have a preference, so you might prefer to consume content in a auditory way,
Hmm.
but you don't consume all content in an auditory way. And that's where that particular theory got debunked. And it's the same with Maslow. And, my point is here, a lot of these theories, models, frameworks that we have lived by for eons are outdated in today's modern world and today's modern person and today's modern learner. And they just need revamping. And the one at the top, that looks pretty good. Jack, I'll let you speak now.
I was gonna say, I think that any of these models are scalar, and the way that model works, I think, is great. But I think that you could overlay many of these models over that one and have an even better version of it. So I look at the fact that like they've debunked the love languages the same way they debunked Maslow, is that it's scalar in how happiness is provided, right? If everyone wants gifts to a certain point, um, but it's not going to fulfill them beyond that, what as much as something else would. Whereas same thing with yours up above is like you look at businesses, it's like mastery is something everyone wants to have in their job, but it's scalar. Like at some point, you're okay with how much you've mastered. Now you just want more money, or vice versa. You're okay with not making as much money if you can have more mastery. And I think that building a way of assessing it, just like with the big five uh, psychology tests, is it's not just like you are this, it's scalar of how things are working. And I think that's one thing that a lot of these don't take into account. Like even the one above, if you look at like purpose, um, I think like I think it just needs to bump out based on individuals. And but I like the one above. I think that there's an overlay of what both how this player types, you could overlay the five love languages in terms of motivations um, into actions. So, like player types, I feel like this is more internal, and then love languages is kind of external, and then the big five is kind of the intersection between the internal and external.
I'm going to put a map of the different player types that they've tried to map. So the idea is that you have a game as a system, and the system consists of people and the technology itself, right? The game itself. On the left side are people who are interested in interacting with the people in the system. On the right side, you have the people interacting with the system itself. You know, so the people who want mastery want to max out on their points, badges, and leaderboards, for example. I'm going to put some more models to the top that show the gamified design elements and how you can look at your ecosystem as a collection of people who are all at different times trying to optimize for different types of experiences. And then knowing that you have these players who want to optimize for different experiences, you can create different features, attributes, and benefits or gamified design elements in your game that are aimed at triggering those experiences. Whether
Have they done this out? So I could see this modeling work for a game that's controlled, meaning that there's no other actual individuals playing, where the only individuals you interact with are the NPCs. Um, Whereas I think it may change when real individuals are integrated. It might.
So here's a case study from the classroom. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, it works in a classroom. I gamified a couple of different courses that I taught. So one of them was I dropped my kids on a deserted island and they have to fight it out, make teams and survive. And it's all math based. So like, let's scout, let's actually use trigonometry. Let's like use trigonometry with the stars to navigate us off this island and things like that.
Tell them about turning a griefer into an influencer. A disruptor in class to a productive disruptor.
Yeah, but by giving them like a task to do that, they can actually participate. And all of my disruptors became the leaders. And you kind of just give them like leadership positions and they step up. And I think a lot of disruptors just need attention. They're not getting it from somewhere else. You know what I mean? It's like you're not getting hugged at home. Do you need a hug, baby? Do you need a hug? This often what I say to my students when they're acting up. Do you need a hug, baby? Who's not hugging you at home? You're not getting attention at home. So, like, yeah, you just give them some. So it works. Yeah, Mike and I developed it when we first started going out, and I applied it to my classes, and it works. It's crazy.
I think you were talking about Michael there. Do you need a hug, Michael? Michael, I'll give you a virtual hug. I'll give you a virtual hug.
I'm the little spoon.
He's the little spoon when we hug. We cuddle.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is here what you're describing, and I'm very bullish on this because we're talking about. Sorry to hark back to Maslow, but we'll use that as the reference point, if you like. Is that in this particular model, we are we're trying to build a framework or create a framework based on different individuals, as they say here, different player types. And that seems to me to make perfect sense because we're all different, right? We're all different. So, Maslow was just created. Well, the irony of Maslow, and people don't really know this, he actually built that framework based on interviewing only 18 people. And the irony is, if you speak to any professor with regards to academic research, they will absolutely poo-poo it if you try and release an academic paper and you haven't had hundreds stroke thousands of participants. So 18, and then we have a framework that we've all lived by for all these years. Just crazy for me. But also just on this particular framework here that you're showcasing, this actually for me points to the early stages of behavioral user experience. So that's really cool. And I think what you were talking about there, sorry, Michael's wife, I didn't quite catch your name. It sounds like what you've done there is you're sort of identifying certain behaviors in your students and then creating a solution for them.
Designing the course so that there's a lot of different activities that strike any type of the different learners. So, you'll have the leadership positions, you'll have the researcher positions, you'll have the different types, and then the kids kind of gravitate towards what they're best at.
You'll have the cheaters who will do anything to get a mark.
Exactly. The kids who I give, plasticine to, and they made a dick that was too high for me to take off the roof.
Oh my God.
But,
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
When I first started Win the War, one of the things I wanted to really do was to aggregate leadership information from different industries to try to find where that common theme is. And I feel like this can help identify some of that common theme. Is I feel like a lot of leadership learning is just on how to lead instead of how you lead. And it should be more about like internal realization and how can you optimize that rather than it should be just filling in a bunch of pieces, even if you don't know what that thing is that you're inherently good at. Because you have to learn how to leverage what you're good at before you can start, I think, rounding out the other pieces that you are lacking in. And I like this model. I'm just thinking of the leadership trainings that we do for like advanced leaders course in the Army. Like there's this online thing called distributed learning course that you have to take online. And it is terrible. And it focuses so much on the doctrine of things you're supposed to do, less on learning about yourself and what you care about as a leader. And I've always been interested in how could you make that overlap. But I think that this is a piece that is needed. I'm just thinking of, I have a founder who just had a breakup with a co-founder, luckily before they did any major like money raise or anything like that. But, what he was testing for when he picked his co-founder was great things in a co-founder, but what he wasn't realizing was that he was picking another CEO to join his team, not a CTO or a technical co-founder. If you are a CEO type and you're bringing on someone who's also a CEO type, you're going to have, if one person can't bend the knee when necessary, you're going to have a lot of conflict in that. So
that kind of ruins marriages if you don't bend a knee.
Yeah. And so I think that if you take this model above, you add in different tests for it, and you can take the, you know, the person's, these gamification types of like player types out, and you can test for specific outcomes from the input. It might be really interesting.
Yeah, what they did for the researchers, for some background, I put some of the original work at the top. It was between university in Waterloo here and in Australia. And what they did is they just observed how the players were choosing to play the game. Some people just want to get to the end as quick as possible. Other people want to collect all the items. Donkey Kong Country, you completed the game at 110% kind of thing. And so this research came out of just them observing how people played. Now, is that confounded by the type of games that had the users play? Of course, but yeah, you can go down the rabbit hole with the user type hexad. And there's also Yukai Chu's Octalysis that I'll put to the top as well.
I wonder if you take those same individuals out of a virtual game and put them into a real life situation, would the results be the same? Would someone who was looking for all the little pieces, if put into like Allie's situation of get off the island, would they immediately go into looking for things that could help? And if they were put into a leadership position, would they realize what they're inherently better at is to go and scavenge for the things that are needed, and would they defer leadership to somebody else? I just think that if you take this and overlay some of the dilemmas we're seeing in hiring and maintaining talent in corporate America, is there a way for this to be leveraged into training models that are, I think, better suited for? I think we hire and we promote based on necessity instead of based on the person being inherently the best for the role, because we don't end up knowing enough about ourselves or what it is at the next step. So I don't know.
But Zach, I have a question, and it might be that it's a rhetorical question, but I'll pose it anyway. But to your point about the issues with the talent pool in corporate America, but are we not? I suppose my question is, but is it the lower end talent pool that's the issue, or is it the leadership that's actually the issue? The leadership knowing what they're good at, what they're not so good at, and being open about what they're not so good at, and asking for help if required. Isn't that where the major problem is, as opposed to new people coming into a company?
Yeah, I 100% agree, but I think that if you are going to ever replace those individuals, if you start teaching early enough, then those individuals at the base, I think, are getting some of those understanding of their potential and can round out and leverage their strengths, right? If we going in and trying to teach a leader who's been in the industry 20 years what their leadership potential is, it's like trying to teach a colonel a new tank variation. It's like, they're already in the fight. They don't have the bandwidth to be trying to keep up with that. But what you can do is mold and mentor the next generation, I think, easier than you could take time and bandwidth away from someone who's executing currently. But that's my thought process is,
Yeah, and
we put
I get that, and I understand that. But you actually just using that example of the colonel and the new tank maneuver is an interesting one, because that sort of plays to me. And I think from the problem that we're trying to solve here, I'm now thinking, I'm not sure that's actually the bigger problem. Isn't the bigger problem the fact that we do not measure competency in any shape or form? We try to. We do it with a yearly appraisal, for example, but that's just pants. That's total pants. measuring competency is something that needs to be ongoing, regular. Observing somebody doing the skill. So I'm starting to think, and I don't know, maybe I'm just sort of talking out loud. I'm doing a Dan probably here, but I'm thinking, yes, it is a problem, but I'm not sure it's the bigger problem. We've got to go to sort of grassroots and get to the competency element first. Or shut up now.
You're talking the competency of leadership, or the competency.
No, just competency in general. Competency in general. You know, whatever job role you are, whatever job role you're given in an organisation, we just are terrible, if negligent, in measuring effective competency. How do we actually know? You know, many years ago, we talked about it in talent management. We talked about high performance, right? And we graded high performance. We wanted hypos in our business because they were the ones that were going to be the next leaders, the next C-suite, the next managers, etc., etc. And we focused all our energies on those high performers and basically ignored everybody else. Although it wasn't meant to be that way, that's the way it's basically transpired. So what I'm saying is, I'm not sure we measure competency at all in the corporate world throughout all levels, all job roles.
I wonder if this one person, though, would perform differently from a competency and performance perspective, depending on who their manager was. And how that would confound, a high performer. I wonder if a 10x person in one place could be a 1x performer in another, depending on the management and leadership style of the sprint.
Zach, can you answer my DM, please?
I think that, hey guys, by the way, what's up, guys? Nice to meet you.
Hi, Anthony.
Hey.
I just got back from a human resources talk. I think your question, I think it's an interesting one because it also shows how competencies are measured within the context. So the context of a skill is also important in how it's exercised. Attitudes, beliefs, competencies. You always said it before when I would come into the spaces last summer. I know this is a great topic to talk about because at the end of the day, I agree with Marco. We have no way of measuring these competencies. We're not necessarily measuring them. Right now, what we're measuring is results-based competencies. Even in like project-based learning, the result is more important. There's no way of capturing the information of how people collaborate within a group, what roles they're playing. I really believe a lot in the complexity of how diversified teams work together and which contexts is also going to influence cultural context, their attitudes, their beliefs. All of those things influence how they work together. And then on top of that, what is the problem they're solving? So far, all we've done in education or in professional development or continuous learning is to focus on the results, which isn't bad. It's one metric, but it's not the metric.
I think that also goes back to, in leadership, results do matter. And so what is it that you're actually testing competency for, right? A leader who makes everyone feel great, but the project's a year late, right? Is that good leadership or is that good likership? And so there's a difference there. It would be interesting to take a controlled group of maybe these personality types and then put them into a system where you have like, let's say 10 objectives, and 3 of them are objectives that you tell them, like, hey, what you need to do is build a boat, and you need to like build a camp and then get off the island. And then maybe there's 4 objectives that are not specifically stated, and see who can catch on to those objectives and put in that work. Maybe it's the person that's going to sacrifice, food the most, or the person who's going to speak the most, and you can test for these different traits. and then maybe there's objectives that we don't know needed to be done, but they were, and who came up with those and how did that work, to really test how this all works in terms of these personality types, but also drivers and motivators from like I think Daniel Pincus is the author who wrote Drive. How that works. I think that there's a lot of team things. I think that you're both correct. Is like there's a lot of team things that we don't test for in terms of competency, because we have this, if it what gets measured gets improved. So if we can't objectively measure something, it's very hard for us to think that we can improve it. So we just kind of like let it go. But I think that if we look at the way psychology does research, there is a way to measure it. It just is hard. And so how do we make that measurement easier? And I think make that measurement a better system.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always interested in the context of a skill being exercised, because I think definitely my father, who was in the military 25 years, Zach, and I love your military analogies. He definitely works within specific types of crisis situations really well, but in everyday context, he's really bad at working in those crisis situations, and that could be obviously attributed to like his PTSD and a lot of things that he's suffered after being 25 years in the military. And also, I mean, he was in the old Navy. He's not in the wasn't in the new Navy. Obviously, he's an older man. But I think it's important to understand how I like this user type, these data archetype roles. It's important to understand how people work together within a civilian context and what makes effective innovation. I think it does incorporate elements of like understanding from a military perspective. I'm weary to say that leadership is an individualized skill or there's one leader on a team, because I definitely believe that within a team of experts you can solve something. I think Harvard Business Review did a good study on this. You want to differentiate the leadership roles and who leads what and who makes what decisions based on what project you're actually solving. So if you're doing a marketing project, obviously the marketing expert will have more pull. If you're doing a product, right, product feature set, product will have more pull. And then on top of that, you also want to constantly differentiate the population. So you want to have like, I think the metric was like 60-40 or 70-30. You want to constantly have new minds coming in. So 60% of the population of your group or of your team knows each other and they have established relationships, but they need to have a differentiation of perspective with a 40% of people that they're just meeting. There's so many different elements that have been kind of attributed to the capacity of teams to actually execute on a result. And I think everyone's trying to find that for their culture and for their business. I'm willing to say that every context is different. And it just depends on what project you're trying to solve, what's your timeline, how you're trying to solve it. Do you need a wartime, leader? Do you need a collaborative leader? What kind of group do you need to attack that project and execute on it? I think it just all depends on the context. Unfortunately, that's why it's so hard to measure.
A Russian fighter jet just collided with a unmanned American aircraft.
Ah, fuck, where?
Doesn't say. It just came across as a tweet from Gergavin.
Toronto.
This will be interesting. No, I agree, Anthony. I think that it's the way you avoid groupthink is by increasing the diversity of the group. And when I say that, I don't mean just like cultural or ethnic or right. The diversity can be new perspectives, new thought processes, new people just in general into the group. I like the 60-40 split. Going beyond that, you potentially run into your team having to revert back to the norming or storming phase of like team development. And I'm a big proponent of just getting to storming as quickly as possible, even if it's just manufactured storming, and just try to push people to. A lot of teams fail at being super honest with each other, and so they kind of just are like, "Oh yeah, I totally love when you do this. It's great," and that ends up causing this delayed conflict. And so you get up getting too deep into the project, and then the conflict arises, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe they're like this." And I think like the Syndicate had it. It's like we were all sitting there as a group that was like coming onto these spaces and talking and chatting, and everyone was nice, and no one wanted to be confrontational. And then we had all gotten so comfortable with each other that all of a sudden we started saying how we really felt, and then everyone was like, "I can't believe they say these things," and then they just laughed. And the people who got through storming kind of came back still to have the conversation. But that's a normal like team development thing. And I'm just interested in, I think that regardless of what situation you're talking about, Anthony, I think that there are inherents in it. Um, Whether it's a wartime CEO or it's a peacetime CEO or whatever, right? I think that there are traits and attributes that are inherent to some of these things, but we just don't understand it because, like you said, we don't codify them into expertise, and how do we measure that, and then what type of emphasis do we put on it?
I remember when you and So You last year were building up a sort of like a project collaborative, a project based kind of website where people could kind of upload their projects. You guys remember that? You guys created a hyperlink, and then it was based on your rundown, Zach, of how to approach projects or how to approach it from a military standpoint. It was like a military rundown. Yep. What was that called again?
Oh, the military decision-making process.
Yeah, and I really like that because I think that's what needs to be codified first before we can understand what attributes would apply best for a project or to execute on something. Because you need to understand what is the problem we're solving first, right? What is this team put together for, and what would be the best people to attack this team or to attack this project, sorry, or to attack this problem or solve this problem. Really, we don't have a codified method. I mean, we do sort of, but there's no universal code as to how we frame a problem and how we approach that problem, because then we would be, I think, a little bit better at approaching it with what would be the best team to execute on this.
I think that's why I like MDMP so much, is because at one step of MDMP, your assessment becomes, what systems and processes do you integrate for the completion of this? Like, is this a problem for Lean? Is it a problem for, Six Sigma? Is it a problem, is it best to use a Kanban? Do you need to use a SWOT? Like, we know that there's systems and we know that there's processes out there. We know that they're inherently good at different things. Understanding the problem set, understanding where you're going into, and making sure that you have just enough information that you're not too far ahead in thinking, but not behind. And some of these like things is I like it. I just don't think we use it well enough in the business world, because I think it could really help.
So what's been going on, Syndicate?
I keep seeing you jump in but not speak, and I've just been like, when's he gonna get up here?
I like to listen. I just like to listen.
I'm building a mobile app. What you guys up to? I'm learning JavaScript for the first time. It's a bit confusing, but with ChatGPT, what can't you do?
Silicon Valley Bank is open and is accepting new customers.
So they did get the bailout through an FDIC bridge bank.
I don't know. The new CEO was appointed yesterday. And
Where is he from? AIG Insurance.
Tim Mayopoulos.
You know, it's so funny to see the differentiation of narratives on Twitter. Obviously, we're in the tech world, we're in the tech ecosystem. Obviously, we helped a lot of founders this weekend, but I saw on TikTok last night, there's a lot of people that are hating this. Like your everyday American. That to me is really astounding. Obviously, because they probably can't frame or understand the depths of impact that it would have had, but at the same time, it's just really interesting to see the expressions on TikTok compared to the expressions on Twitter. It might be an algorithm.
Can you blame middle America for hating this whole thing? I mean, look at what they think of Silicon Valley and think about what 80, probably 80 plus percentage of them have been exposed to.
Don't
Go
they have
on
a show called Silicon Valley?
like, but that really wasn't that popular amongst, that demographic. If you look at most Americans and you think about what they've seen shows like WeWork. They've seen shows like the one on Apple with Travis Kalanick, and they've seen startup shows and
Silicon
stuff.
Valley.
So
Silicon Valley.
I mean, even all, like, think about it. All of these shows, Silicon Valley shows them at least struggling. But most of these shows, the minute they're struggling in their basement, the minute they go, oh my God, I got it, the next scene is them in this giant building, driving getting driven around to where they go. And so I think I wrote a Twitter post that was like, the big problem Silicon Valley and startup culture has right now is that you have to just have this heedless sense of the future and not care about being told no and that your idea is dumb, and you almost have to live in this fantasy world for part of your life, and just have this confidence about you and embody it everywhere you go. Otherwise you're going to get talked out of your idea, or you're just going to get crumble the first time something isn't going right. But on the flip side, that same persona then makes you a target for everyone else's hate. I'm sure Marco, when I see someone who's wearing a green beret and they aren't actually wearing their headgear and they're not following Army standards, and I'm sitting there going, I'm going to go tell this guy off, and then I see their green beret hanging out of their pocket, and I just turn around and I'm like, well, fuck them. They think they're better than me, blah, 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 blah. And you're just like, okay, whatever, and you just let them do it. And then when you see them struggling, like, I went to a training and with these green berets, they were struggling, and I was just like, I'm not gonna go help them. Fuck them. They think they're better than me. I'm not gonna even talk to them. And like, it's that same thing as like most Americans are sitting there going like, fuck them. Like, they're all rich. They only see them as this like mythical creature. I mean, we talk, the whole ecosystem just talks about unicorns all day. Like, are you like, I want to be a unicorn one day. Like, how unrealistic is that to all the rest? Like, that's literally the thing. If your toddler says, if you go to your toddler and say, what do you want to be one day? And they say, I want to be a unicorn. You just think they're an idiot. And like, that's what a middle America is thinking about us. And so like, there's a PR problem but behind that PR problem, you have to have this arrogance about you or it doesn't work.
So as this room's recorded, I'm going to make this general. But I know a friend who plays founder lingo bingo at when he is being pitched, and the three words at the top that earn most bingo points are: one, unicorn; two, game changer; three, disruptive. Because I am not kidding you, the amount of times founders pitch those three words, I've lost count. in the same deck. So here's the irony. There are very few actually disruptive technologies that we've seen in our lifetime. I would actually, and I'll give two examples. I think Uber was disruptive. I think Netflix was disruptive. But the fact that founders seem to think that they have the next disruptive thing just boggles me. And game changer, God knows what game changer means. And unicorn, yeah, they all say they want to be a unicorn.
Yeah, there's definitely. Do you think that's because of the maturity of the ecosystem now? Like maybe we've iterated way, like we've lived long enough to become a villain now. I think that might have something to do with it. Right now,
No, I can tell you what the problem is. The problem is VCs. It's language that VCs have just thrown out ad infinitum. Because if you think about it, and people don't tend to realize this, and you'll see VCs on Twitter and on LinkedIn, etc., showcasing that one of their portfolio companies has just took a further round and they're now valued at this, or they've got an exit of that, etc. That is all marketing. They are marketing, and the reason that they are marketing is because they have the only reason they have a fund. Sorry, that's unfair. Let me rephrase that. Their fund structure is based on limited partners, people, companies giving them an amount of money to build a fund. So, and obviously by taking that money, you are saying to that limited partner, I am going to return X on your money by X date. And if you deliver that, and as you're going through that process, you are marketing how quote unquote successful your investment choices have been. These are sending signals to both your existing LPs, but also to future LPs, because you'll want to create another fund and another fund and a bigger fund and a bigger fund. So it's all marketing jargon, in my humble opinion.
so
And VCs have created this problem.
it's an infinite fake it until you make it. It's a never-ending fake it until you make it.
Ooh, I couldn't possibly say that, but if I
Well,
was wearing, but
who lies more?
I agree with this sentiment.
Who has more of an incentive to lie, a politician or a startup founder pitching for investment, or a job seeker?
Yeah, I heard the question today.
But it's a good question. But I'll give a short answer to it. A founder should never ever lie to a VC ever, because they always get found out. And as soon as you get found out on a lie, doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how good the thing that you're building, it's a red flag and you're off.
What about job seekers who are just trying to get their first job and trying to do whatever it takes? They probably feel like they're in the same position as a startup founder pitching for VC capital, right? I asked that because I see
same
the
issue though.
yeah.
Same issue.
I suppose it is the same issue, but I suppose it's, it goes back to something that we were talking about earlier, compromise, I guess.
How much do we chalk it up to human nature, I guess?
I suppose the way that I would quantify it is how big or small a lie are you willing to swallow as the recipient?
Depends on if I paid my mortgage, I guess. Yeah, I guess as a recruiter, I see the incentive to lie from both sides of the table that I work with. The job seeker trying to get a job above their pay grade, and the employer trying to get the best value for their employment dollar. So they're both lying to each other about their individual brochures. And the phrase is, I know this wasn't on the brochure, but you're on the cruise now.
Yeah, there's definitely a really interesting thing that happens as soon as you get a job and you realize the culture is definitely not all that it was panned out to be or put out to be, I suppose. And from an employee side, right? As opposed to from an employer side, you have to kind of build it up to attract people, especially now. It seems like a really hard problem to solve. Like, which one is? I mean, what's the worst lie? Are there white lies? Is there gray?
What's the worst lie? I will pay you on Friday. Is that the biggest one? Or I'll have it done on by Friday. Which is bigger?
Yeah. Well, depends who the recipient of that lie is, isn't it? Because they're both important to different people. But I guess going back to your question though, because you got me thinking there. You know, a job seeker embellishing their skills, experience, etc., to get that next role. It's ironic in a way, isn't it? Because in culture, and certainly in startup culture.
Is this Marco or is it me?
He got a call.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. Where did I get to? Or should I start again?
Start again.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll start again. Zach, can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. Yeah. Okay. So what I was basically saying is, if we go to your question about the job candidate, or the person looking for that next role, you know, whether they embellish their skills or their experience, there's a bit of irony in it for me because we encourage in society and certainly in business, we encourage the hustle. We want people to hustle. And on a VC side, it's actually something we look for. I look for it as a behavior from gauging whether a founder is going to make it or not make it. It's one of the things I look for. So aren't we in effect, isn't that person actually hustling? Um, I don't know. That's what I'm sort of thinking. That's where my head's at. They're not lying. Well, they are lying, but in a way they're hustling. And we encourage hustling.
The art of the hustle, isn't that a term that came from not to go into like any kind of etymology of words here, but isn't that a term that comes from what are those con artists, right? And then it kind of got adopted um, by the entrepreneurship in the last 5 to 10 years. And I mean I like hustle culture. I'm also a victim of it, I believe. But um, in other ways, I mean, I could see it being a problem in a certain sense to I could see it being a problem in a certain sense to have to embellish certain things. But again, what is the greatest lie? So one of my problems was that I moved from another country to back to the United States, and it was a very difficult thing because I didn't I had all of this rapport back in Colombia, and I've built things in Colombia, but I wasn't able to prove it in an American context. And that was a very hard thing to have to do here. Ever since I came back after being there for 10 years, um, again, it just comes to a point of being able to learn about the culture and then being able to integrate yourself as well. I mean, there's an enculturation aspect a reinculturation aspect that I had to go through. But on top of that, I mean, it does have everything to do with the capacity to provide a little bit of value to that company, whoever you're consulting or working for, right? And what's that value? And for those things to be clear and to communicate those things is so key.
I see Marco's off mute, but I don't hear him.
Phone call, probably.
Every time someone says con artist in a space, I go with the same argument: is that um, we only call individuals artists in retrospect, um, and the results at the end are the um, are what differentiate con artists from like great business minds. And uh, you know, if if Elizabeth Holmes blood detector had worked, we would have never called her a con artist. If the second or third iteration of it had worked, we would have thought that she was just ahead of her time and innovative and amazing, and we would be all touting her praises. But because it didn't work and it didn't work, and then she didn't eventually give up and tell everyone, we now call her a con artist and a thief and all this. So I think that when we say that, we have to remember that it's just con artist just means confidence artist. And the entire startup world is built on the idea of being a confidence artist in the idea and the future that you believe in. So, um, to some degree, we're all con artists in this ecosystem. And I think that every leader is a con artist to some degree, um, because sometimes you really have to just uh, embody that to get people to do what is for the best of the group, even if they don't think it's for the best. Um, Not every time, obviously, but just sometimes. I think contextually we use this as like this big negative term, but if you look at it, it's all kind of relative.
You know what? That name makes sense. That name makes sense to my favorite saying. And my favorite saying is, "I am a firm believer in meritocracy, but I don't practice it."
Also, the someone who is skilled today might not be skilled for you tomorrow. Like, consider a freelancer who just got a new gig. Maybe if you call them a day too late, maybe they're not that same freelancer with the same bandwidth. So there's a lot of moving pieces. Like, I would love to be able to say, "Hey, Manish, every time I want to build an app, I'm just going to call you up, right?" And literally, I'm on a Zoom call with Manish, and we're designing this music app. But if Manish gets a big Fortune 50 client, maybe he doesn't have the same skill bandwidth time for me that he did before. Now I would say congratulations, but then I'd have to find a new developer at the same time.
I'd also look at this in the current hiring practices. A lot of companies, I don't think that uh, they do a good job of articulating, and I don't think business in general does a good job of articulating that when you pay someone, let's choose a round number of $100,000 for their work, and you're paying them $100,000 a year. That first year, you're anticipating that they're going to work at a lower percentage than 100% of their capacity for that year, but you're continuing to pay them at a salary for their full capacity. Otherwise, it would be like, hey, we're going to pay you $60,000 for your first year. And then after 1 year, if you've integrated into the team well, then we'll bump you up to the regular salary for that position of 100,000. We don't do that. We just pay them based on the position that they're hiring into, and understanding that their first year they're going to need to get integrated into the systems, and they're going to need to get into the team and the processes, and it might take a year, sometimes longer. um, but we're okay doing that because it's a long-term investment into that person being at the job, because we've created our system of hiring based on this idea that people come and stay for 20 years. And so I think the way in which we pay people and the way in which we evaluate salaries and things maybe needs to change based on how informed people are and how quick projects happen and how quickly they iterate. And I think the new world of hiring, because like we've been talking about, expertise and competency, how do you measure for that? How do you hire for that? How do you evaluate it? How do you pay for that? How does comp work? I think it's all just really interconnected, just to bring it full circle.
Yeah, it's almost like hiring should be done from a consultancy perspective. So I have this mentor here. She's in Columbus. She's really great. She does sort of just like innovation consulting and operational consulting for companies that they're generally stuck from that 5 to 10 million annual recurring range, and they just can't scale up beyond that. And it's generally because they don't have scalable processes put in place. Uh, they have a lot of backstops to how the companies run. And I feel like the same thing happens in recruiting with recruiting funnels, right? It's almost this method of being able to approach it. So there's a really good methodology that's happening here with Intel at Ohio State. They're getting an innovation lab put in place before they're moving here. And it's because a lot of the problems in Ohio is there's these big companies moving in, but they don't have the local workforce upskilled enough to actually be hireable for these companies. So what they're doing to solve that is they're going to create these innovation labs where people can come, they can learn new skills, whether they're, you know, ex farmer, come from a farm family, or whether they're industrial. How can they get actionable and hireable skills? And it almost seems like a smarter way to integrate people into your workforce as opposed to the traditional hiring funnel. It's being able to upskill them into your company, right? I think Google does this as well. Oh my God, it's Mr. Rogers. ¿Qué tal, weón? Sorry, I got excited to see that motherfucker. Anyways, it's almost an interesting way, I think, to be able to grow into a company. I think is sort of more accurate in order to produce the right output. Right now, you hire somebody in a traditional sense, it's going to take 3 to 6 months for them to show any kind of real effect on the company, because they have to dive in. They have to understand your cultural perspective. They have to understand how your team works. They have to integrate into that team. It's kind of like going through boot camp with them, essentially. Um, I think Google does the same thing with Google Learn, right? You can learn into Google and be hireable for Google. It all depends on your personal drive, what kind of courses you want to take. It just seems like a smarter way to learn. A smarter way to get hired. Um, I do see that changing in the future. I would hope, and that doesn't mean that Soyu's not going to have a job, right? But I think that, uh, well, I mean, you do so many other things, Soyu, so you're so valuable in different ways. But I think recruiting in general has to change from that dynamic of just matching technical skills more towards how can we have a lasting candidate and retain them in this company is the big question here. I really believe that that's really what we're talking about. But yeah, what's up, Mr. Rogers? Senor Rogers.
I look forward to the days where Mike is forced to be a voice actor on the streets again, no longer able to recruit. He's sent out to the streets.
I feel like we would all be really good mercs. I told you this back in the day, Dan. You'd be a fantastic merc. So use a good merc right now, I believe.
Oh yeah, this is a channel of mercs, man. They're all in here for men for themselves. But if I do get an HVAC unit, I'm probably gotta talk to Mr. Rogers. I mean, otherwise I'd probably pay out the ass. But he probably said like, "Do you want to like not ever think about anything?" Yeah. Well, then just pay out the ass, and probably just do that. Yeah.
It'd be cool to have Dan on retainer at any company. Like I feel like
I agree.
Dan as a service, Dan on retainer. You just
Hmm.
5 to 10 thou to keep him on retainer and
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
into a room when you need him. I feel like
Fred.
I
Yeah,
feel
you
like
just
all the
buzz.
stuff.
Yeah, you actually you can get the hologram version of me. It's a discount. It's about 250 a quarter. And essentially you can buzz me in. You just put the holo pad on the floor in the room, and then I vaporize in like and then I just go off. I can recall the last 20 minutes of the conversation based on who was in there last with the phone. And then yeah, my AI just catches up right to speed, and I just start. You give me a couple primate people you want me to go off on, and I just start going off on them until somebody like hacks me, or if like one of the windiest drones gets too close to the building, I start to phase out. You know what I mean? We're gonna have all kinds of future glitches. You know what I mean? Like, dude, don't open that magnet. Oh shit! There's like all the dance scattered all over the window or something. Oh crap! Yeah, man. Good futures are coming. Good futures, dude. How's your stuff going on over at Maven? All right, you guys cranking?
We're fucking cranking, bro. A lot of
That's
stuff to do.
good.
Um, moving into a lot of different plays here. Yeah, just trying to
That's
keep him
good.
focused too, trying to help him keep focused.
Yeah, I hear
What's
that.
Nathan?
It's the company I'm working for right now.
Oh, nice. What they do?
They do IT recruiting and consulting.
Nice. You're on the recruiting side, sales side, otherwise?
I'm on the biz dev side. We had a
Mm.
really good event. We're trying to create some impactful events here, and we had a DE&I event that I led, and it was at the country club. I should say that with my pinky up in the air. It was at the
Hold on.
country.
They let the diversity people into the country club? How
Yeah, I
dare
know, right?
they? Yeah,
I know.
Talk about inclusion.
I know.
Well, and
they let they let you they let you come in for 1.5 hours a year, and it's like they think you think you're a part of the party.
Gateable inclusion, guys. Gate kept inclusion. That's what we're all about.
I like it. I like it. It's like the Masters. Hey, Tiger Woods, I think you're playing good enough. Come on.
Exactly, bro. Like us Latinos, bro, we're like fucking ragweed. Like once you plant us, we just fucking spread.
Country club on the soccer pitch, you know? That's so funny. How was it at the country club? Did they treat you as equals?
I think they thought I was a waiter for 1 second.
Yes. Uh-huh. That's to be expected. Did you get them the drink at least?
Yeah, no, it was actually really good. We had like the chief diversity officer of Cardinal Health was there. It was really good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was a good event. It was good to connect with people on that level. We actually had a DE&I consultant come in and design some questions for people at the dinner tables, and the questions were designed to instill good conversation and for these executives from these companies to be able to share best practices. It was a pretty good event. It was good.
Sounds like a really raucous type of event.
A raucous event. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what does that mean? And then I see that
No. Yeah. No, because he's like, his identity spans both worlds in a way. He has the voice of a country club, but the skin color of a, you know.
So he's a Carlton Banks.
Can you do the dance, Ruckus? Hold on? Can we use Control Net? Get
What if
Peter.
I
We're gonna. Yeah.
so what if I can, right? What is it to
Uh,
you?
it's like a code switch. It's like instead of like speaking things, you could just dance the Carlton, and everyone knows.
I'm not as conservative as Carlton. He's conservative, but not as
Oh, so you're on the spectrum between Will and Carlton. I can see that. Those are the two spectrums. Carlton
Oh,
is
he's an Uncle
probably a
Phil. So
fiscal
he's an Uncle
conservative.
Phil then.
Oh,
Yep,
right,
Uncle Phil. Remember,
right.
Uncle Phil tiptoed the line.
And so I guess like his it's good because he only had one on Viv. You know, at least he got that part right. Some deep
Halfway through the
Prince
season,
of Bel Air jokes.
they did change her for a
Hmm.
woman of lighter color. So remember, you don't remember that?
Oh, of course. Have you seen the interviews with Will
Yeah,
Smith
they said it
and that
was
lady that got
sucked up.
swapped
Yeah, they
out?
said it was like
Yeah,
super
man.
fucked.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because Uncle Banks is light skinned, right? Hey, Ruckus, are you lighter or darker than Uncle Banks?
I'm about Will Smith's complexion. Maybe
Okay, okay, that's all right. Summertime, I get it.
yeah, in the summertime a little darker.
Bro, honestly,
I get dark in
dude,
the
same
summer.
here, bro.
You get dark in the summer?
Dude, same here, dude. I get confused
I
for
get
being
really dark.
black in the summer. No lie. I
You're
swear to
kidding me.
God.
Because you're so tall. There's not a lot of tall Mexicans.
I mean, I guess. I guess.
But I get confused for Dominican. So I have people walking up to me speaking Spanish all the time, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not.
Oye, papi, oye, papi.
Yeah, yeah, no.
From Rockies, I was getting more of a Carlton with like maybe a little penny inside of them, or if it's Will Smith, it's like the post Jada at the Oscars Will Smith.
You know what's interesting about the Hispanic community? It and
Here we go.
I'm,
I think they prefer Latinx,
Y'all
actually.
just
I'm trying to
I do
figure
not
out
Oh
more.
prefer
yeah,
Latinx.
most
I am
the
against
highest
Latinx.
percentage. They love that Latinx for sure.
So here's what I find interesting about the Hispanic community is that I'm starting to tell the difference between people. The difference with when someone says "papi," like that's is that Puerto Ricans?
I mean, it's pretty much a blanket, Poppy. But if
Okay.
you think of the ethos, like if you put like the little, that's more Latin America, whereas Papi, I would say, is more island. You
Okay.
get like in Colombia, you get a lot of papacito.
yeah,
If you
papacito
understand when I say the
or
ethos,
papi
yeah.
chulo.
Okay. It took me a minute to get used to being called Poppy because that's that's like daddy and you know what I mean. So
Whatever,
but
bro.
it's
You were
growing on me.
fucking smiling on the inside. You were like, oh my fucking
I
god!
did.
Did somebody just call me Poppy?
No, from a guy though. From a guy calling you daddy?
Hey, dude.
Like Poppy?
Dude. I go to the bar. You go to the bars here. There's like some bars here in San Antonio, over here in Texas. Bro, you walk in, they're like, "Hey, papa, que te quieres, papa?" Like these dudes from Puerto Rico, bro. I'm just like, oh shit, this is cool.
Yeah, but so there is a difference though,
Yeah,
right?
there's
If
a
they say, "Oye,
yeah,
papa," papa's like
yeah, like
bro.
bro,
You can say
exactly. They say
papa with
papa.
an A. If you say papi, that's a little weird from another
Yeah,
guy. Like I will say papi's like borderline weird. Papacito, run.
yeah.
I mean, maybe not run. Maybe you like that, and that's totally fine,
It's
right? I
okay.
mean,
Raucous
that's not a
wants to
bad
cause
thing.
a little raucous.
This is America.
Raucous, you probably get less of that if you didn't spend so much time on the Latinx grinder.
No, we have a really high Hispanic, Guatemalan, Colombia, Peruvian population in Cincinnati.
Population.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to offend, but
Population, you're
what do you
racist.
That's a quick way to offend. Is try not to.
Want to welcome KC. We got a white cis gender male. We got a white cisgender male. Everybody now, white cis gender male. We got a white cisgender male. Will he come up? Probably not. Just gender male. Welcome to the Syndicate. Gamification as a replacement for Maslow's hierarchy of needs and designing compelling, greasy user experiences through progressive disclosure of gamified design elements aimed at producing experiences that the user wants to optimize for that time. And, trying to create a SVB and ordinals. What's going on, everybody?
I'm glad that Wi-Fi is on the Maslow hierarchy of needs.
I
Glad that
remember your kids coming out of their room when the Wi-Fi goes off. You need to film that.
when they're coming out of their rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're really faint, Mike.
If your headphones battery died, Mike.
I like how I got on here and I take Mike's little LARP game test, and then it says disruptor, and then Marco, I think, was saying that the bingo, startup bingo, that was fun. But,
Dude, Mike, your shit died, bro. No wonder that fucking DJ was roasting your ass.
It's all going to be irrelevant anyway because in an hour and a quarter, a live demo of GPT-4 goes, so we'll all become obsolete anyway.
Is that already started?
well, who's going to
Sorry?
prompt it?
Did you say the demo is today and
Yes,
not-
today I put it. Yeah, I put it in the jumbotron. It's 1 p.m. PDT, 8 p.m. GMT.
I'm not sure about you guys, but with the anxieties of the world, I'd rather just give my life up to an AI god.
what would you call it?
Can you start God like I God? I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what AI like guide, maybe guide. Like there's a GAID. I'm trying to pronounce that. How would that be pronounced? How would we combine those two words? Gaid.
How are you spelling it?
Gaid.
Gai. Oh, I don't know how. That's a new one.
It's putting God and AI together.
That's a new one. I'll let you run with that one.
I mean, with Russians and aliens and China and America and everything that's going on, I mean, might as well just give in to the almighty AI.
No, fuck that, dude. Where they're gonna? I mean, I'm gonna be a part of the resistance, bro. I'm gonna be fucking chopping T1000s up. What you talking about? if you wanna live, just follow me. I'll be your Connor. I'll be John Connor for you, okay?
Marco, I did have a question for you. If you're still available, if you're still there.
I'm still here. I'm cooking my tea. In fact, I don't even know how this has happened. You know, this is what I employ a wife to do, but I end up cooking the tea. What's going on?
You employ a wife?
Sorry, did I say that out loud? I was just thinking that in my head.
No, I'm going to use that one for my wife.
And of course, she's not here, because if she was here, I would never dream of saying that.
Bro, that's like that episode of Key and Peele where they're like, and I said, bitch.
Oh, and they're up in the tree
Yeah,
and
it's
they
like
lie.
they're up in the fucking tree. Bro, I will not. I don't give a fuck how manly you are, bro. You try to, nah, that ain't going well.
I'm going to use that one to employ a wife. Marco, I had a question about. I heard you mention employees before. So imagine you have employees that, um, you know, still have employees. Are you? Do you go through a labor? Are you going through a labor shortage, or are you noticing any turnaround?
Am I going through a labour shortage?
Or is the labor shortage impacting, your business?
No, it's not. I mean, I employ across multiple countries. I mean, I'm a small employer, 120 people, but I employ across multiple countries. So I suppose that probably makes it a little bit easier. I wouldn't, crikey, there are plenty of candidates. That's not the problem. The problem that I've got is what I term as good candidates. So that's a bit of a problem that I have. And, we've been touching on, it's funny, we've been talking a lot about skills, a bit about competencies. And, people have, so I don't find that as a challenge. I can find enough people that have the skills, have the competencies. The bit that I am struggling to find in my candidates is the ability for people to do two things. One, problem solve, and two, critical thinking. That is what I am fundamentally struggling with. And I'm going to make a generic statement here. I think it's a generational problem.
Ouch.
Yeah, that would be because they don't have the experience. They don't have the industry knowledge as the more seasoned people. Would that be a good call?
No.
No.
No. And I didn't see who said ouch, and whoever it was, they were right, because it is a generalism, but it's the way they were raised. It's the way they've been raised. We touched on this the other day, Ruckus, and I'm at fault here. going and queuing up at midnight for my son's PlayStation 1 when it first came out, for example, when what I should have done is I should have said to him, I should have made him queue up or come up with a solution to queuing to purchase that PlayStation. Now, of course, there's a failing in that because he was only 6 or 8 or whatever he was, so that would have been a wrong thing to do. But you get my point. My point is I've done everything for my kids, and that generation, you know, we as parents have typically have done everything for them. So we've not helped them to problem solve, help them to critical think, because it's just easier for us to do it for them or tell them how to do it. And I think there's an element of that has come into the workplace, where it's quicker, easier just to, rather than get somebody to solve a problem, just tell them how to solve it. If we think about it, you know, and I think this for me is a challenge in around coaching. You know, I want to say about 2008, maybe might have been a bit sooner, 2005, you know, corporate companies stopped training budget for coaching. We stopped coaching managers. We stopped that. And of course, you know, there's an element of reasons why we did that. Crashes, etc., inflation, blah, blah, blah. And training budgets always come under pressure when there's a downturn in the marketplace. But for, I want to say, 8 years, maybe 10 years, it was not a line on the budget for coaching. We used it for e-learning, we used it for soft skills, etc., but we stopped coaching managers. And I think now we are reaping the failing of that strategy.
Do you think that there's a correlation, Marco, between the information age and sort of like coming into this kind of zeitgeist of accessibility to data and new information, and people are kind of confusing the competencies of problem solving with being able to solve a problem by searching for it on Google, right? I
think you're absolutely spot on, Anthony. Absolutely, you know, and you're not old enough to remember this, but you know, Ruckus will. You know, when we were younger and we needed to find something out, what's the population of Kenya, for example, right? We would have to go to an Encyclopedia Britannica or go to the library or go to an atlas. You know, we went to a resource. We went and found the resource, the right resource, and we found it. Whereas now, and we all know the terminology, in fact, it's in the English dictionary, we Google it. So I think you're spot on, Anthony. We've just made it so easy now, and this is my a bit of a concern I have around things like OpenAI, is that actually we're potentially now making it even easier for people just to get a machine to do something, because that's fundamentally what we're doing when we ask Google. We're getting a machine to give us the answer, as opposed to us going and searching for it and finding out.
I remember I worked at a company, and we had, after I got hired, we had 4 weeks of training to query the database. So we were trained not to learn the answer or to problem solve, but the problem already had an answer in the database. And so it was 4 weeks of querying an answer, which is to both your points. You know, we weren't. It was really odd being trained not to think anymore, but that this database was going to be your go-to, your brain. So that is that's spot on for what both of you guys are saying. It reminds me of that training.
Sorry, I'm kind of low on the Maslow's hierarchy of Wi-Fi right now, but not sure if you can hear me. But
What was I gonna say there? Oh yeah. So,
Are
but
you in?
don't you have to?
Are you in? Alaska, are you in the bath?
Am I where?
He's
Are
taking
you
a
in the
he's
bath?
taking a shit.
No way, man. That would be gross. You guys. So I'm in a recording studio with no. I was getting away from the pool area there, but yeah. So I was just either music playing. So what I was going to say though is, don't you have to seek out these answers from ChatGPT or from the database Rockus was referring to? To I mean, you're not just you know to get those answers.
Yeah, but here we do. But herein lies a challenge. And you'll know this. We now go to Google, and we say to Google, "What is the population of Kenya?" And up the top comes an answer, and we accept that answer. Whereas what we should be doing is we should be looking at multiple resources to check that the first answer is actually the correct answer. But we don't check because we take the first answer. So if we use something like ChatGPT and we put in a question to it and it gives us a response and we like what it is, we're going to accept it. We're not going to try and refine it. We're not going to check whether it's exactly what the answer that we were looking for, or is it actually the truth?
Exactly. I made a reference to
But
ChatGPT, and I got a negative response with it. But I'm sure everybody's seen the movie Wall-E, right? Remember the fat people in the chairs that would just use the little stick to move around and stuff? And I made the reference and I said, and there was a bunch of tech guys in here, and I said, keep using ChatGPT and your ass is gonna be in that fucking chair moving around, and you're gonna miss life, you know? Because the thing is that we can look up the answers, but if we can't put it into practice, then I don't know, it's very like pointless to have like these tools when people are like losing like the fundamentals and the basics of you know certain mechanics. Like for instance, like for me in my industry, right, in HVAC, I have to do hands-on training and do a bunch of stuff because I'm a technician, and now it's getting to the point where I'm gonna start having to be an IT person because we're starting to go into these different systems. And if I am just using ChatGPT to always give me the answer, how am I going to be able to use my eyes and my hands to diagnose an issue when the issue may not be right in front of me? You know what I mean?
yeah, and yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and we've seen that already with motor cars. When I joined the army at 17, I trained as a vehicle mechanic. So I learned how to fix tanks and lorries and Land Rovers. And I look back now, I take my car to the garage. The first thing they do is they lift up the bonnet and they plug a computer into it. So, when I was a mechanic and I learned how to take apart an alternator and take out the brushes and put in new brushes. We don't do that anymore. The computer tells us there's a fault with the alternator. What we do is we take out the alternator and we replace it with a new one. We don't fix stuff anymore. We just fit stuff. So I wonder, Mr. Rogers, whether that's what's happening in your industry or will happen in your
Oh
industry.
yeah,
You don't
we call
fix
them
anything
parts
now, you
changers.
just replace it.
We call
Yeah.
those people parts changers because all they do is just like for instance like and the thing is well, the thing is too though you have to understand too is the price of the fix versus the price of the part, like just replacing the entire part, because the way that our, I guess, our economy is and the way that these corporations are run by greed, it's not much off. Like they literally do not want you to fix this shit. So they price this stuff like within like a couple of $100 from from the new part. So like for instance, there might be a control board that we need for a system and it may be like $3,000, but the condenser outside might be 4 grand. So at that point, is it more beneficial to replace the part or get a new unit outside and have a 10-year warranty and not worry about it for the next 10 years? You know what I mean? Like, it's getting to that point where we have to justify our spending not based off of can I fix it, but more on is this gonna give me longevity because this fucking part's expensive and I don't want to pay 3 grand to put in a fucking board if the shit's gonna crap out of me in the next 2 years and then I gotta eat another 4 grand. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just what we're seeing in our industry right now, and I'm pretty sure it's everywhere else too when it comes to like materials and parts and you know computerized controls and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, are y'all seeing that over there too? I mean, the price of like certain things. I mean, it's like pretty close. It's pretty close.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's like a
It's,
good.
I mean, I call it insanity. I mean, it's just not the. It's it's across the whole piece actually, and it's maddening to me because I like to think I'm not an environmentalist, but I'm very much in touch with the environment, and I want to leave the world in a good place for my children and my grandchildren. And it just beggars belief to me, talking about your point there. Why would you not? How can a condenser be more expensive than the whole circuit board? That makes no sense because the circuit board, how's that going to degrade? And we're putting that into landfill, et cetera, et cetera. And I know it's only a small item, but hey, there are millions of circuit boards, I guess, going into landfill every single day, whereas they wouldn't have to necessarily be so. It would just be a small condenser. It's insanity to me.
Yeah, and it's just weird, man. It's weird. Like the industry, like for instance, like they just came out with and they didn't come out with a new refrigerant. Like this refrigerant's been out for a while. It's called R410A, and I'm not. I don't know what they're really trying to get at, but they're coming out with newer refrigerants called A2Ls, and they used to use like back in the day they used to use kind of like propane, liquid propane, and stuff like that as a refrigerant because it had good cooling properties, but it was highly combustible. So now they develop these newer refrigerants that are slightly flammable, that are actually more energy efficient than the refrigerant that we currently have right now, and they don't have any chlorine molecules in it. So part of me is like, okay, well, this is cool, right? We're not damaging the environment, but how many people are actually purging refrigerant into the air that it's causing an actual like greenhouse effect to occur? I don't believe that it could be that much. You know what I mean? For them to actually come out with a new refrigerant, like part of me just feels like it's just corporations just trying to find something new to sell us.
I appreciate your insight. And I wonder if when you start upgrading to these new pumps and machines for your home, will it be efficient for the home if the home is not insulated properly, windows? It seems like it's fitting new technology into an old bag or an older structure, if that makes sense. Like, wouldn't there need to be some upgrades to the home as well?
So that's the thing, though. The manufacturers know that everybody isn't going to upgrade their system, so that's why they're developing these systems within the HVAC units, right? They're developing these systems to compensate for the lack of, ductwork design or stuff like that, because they know that their bread and butter is the actual HVAC unit. Because the ductwork, it's just pretty much all labor. We're getting all the labor charges, and we're the ones that are, because we're installing the systems. Ductwork's cheap, flex duct is cheap, but the hard part is the labor portion of it. That's what's expensive. But these corporations like Carrier, Train, Rude, Ream, and all these guys, their bread and butter is these HVAC systems. So to them, they're like, okay, how can we develop a system that has an algorithm built into it that can compensate for someone's lack of insulation in their house or lack of airflow, or they have shitty ductwork and the static pressure is real high, but the system can do its thing and it'll compensate for those parameters. You know what I mean? Like they're making these systems so sophisticated to compensate for lack of ductwork design. Because I mean, think about it, dude. There's so many people out there that are not qualified to be doing any fucking HVAC.
Mr. Raj, I think you're HVACing.
You're back.
Am I back?
Yeah, you were HVACing there for a sec.
Oh shit. No, I was saying. Fuck, I forgot what I was saying. I was on a roll.
That's okay. No, you answered my question. You
Oh,
answered
I
my
did.
question.
Okay.
Yeah,
By the
yeah.
way, Mr. Raj, you're at 916. That's 84 followers away from going HVAC live. Congratulations.
Yo, let's fucking go, dude. Dude, that
That's
video,
20 people in the last few hours.
bro, that video, one of the videos that I posted already has like 14,000 views or 13,000 views. I'm getting there. I just got to keep pushing it. Just keep pushing it and keep going.
Can I do my little Web3 degen thing?
I'm sorry, I couldn't pick that up.
Yeah. To that point about your number of followers, am I allowed to do my little Web3 degen?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's fucking go.
Mr. Raj, give us a story. How many days did you start this channel? Or it's just you and a camera going about your daily life?
It was like 36 days ago or 37 days ago.
Incredible.
37.
Was that 30 followers a day?
I don't know. I'm
30
trying to
times
get
30,
my
yeah.
I'm trying to get my dancing one up and going. I haven't made it. I haven't done any dancing or anything.
You need to play more Spanish music, dude. Embrace your digital signature.
The Mr. Rogers dances. I mean, I got that one up there. You can post that too if you want.
I posted them before. It's just they want to see. Maybe you can combine dancing and HVAC.
That's what I'm thinking, dude. I'm thinking about freaking just start. I'm gonna just start dancing and doing like in the attics and stuff. Maybe.
I liked when you were checking for the air bubbles with the soap spray. That was funny. You know how to do that, Marcus? To check for air leakage? You spray it with soap water?
Yeah, with the bottled soap. Or a bottle of
No,
soap.
these are very viscous liquid bubbles. They're not soap bubbles, guys. God.
Yeah, come on. You're listening to the Syndicate, the HVAC conspiracy show featuring the crypto bottoms. He started by uncovering conspiracies in crypto and then moved on to HVAC. It's also the men's support group, apparently. And welcome. If there's anything you're struggling with, hey, go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, Michael, quick question. Do you have for the syndicate, do you have a group Twitter channel?
We have a group chat, but it's a nightmare, to be honest with you, because it's been a little decentralized, and you know what happens when you let anyone join, right? It just ends up being a shit show. So right now we don't have any one way we communicate. Kind of, I just use Twitter and tagging people as my kind of channel in public, because people don't really know what we're talking about half the time. They just think we're crazy. So I can have conversations out in the open with ordinals, knowing that we're probably the only two people paying attention to our conversation. But I'm looking at circle.so as the way to have the community interact right now. I just talked to their sales rep yesterday. So
the reason why I asked was for Mr. Rogers, you're obviously talking about his TikTok, but I would not know how to find Mr. Rogers on TikTok. So I was posing the question from a sharing perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So whether there was a way of sharing it, because I would subscribe to Mr. Rogers' TikTok channel.
All right, let's move it to the top.
Yeah, man, go look at my stuff.
Do you have any of it?
917.
Like, is any of it posted on your Twitter, or like, are you posting it anywhere else, or are you only posting on TikTok? Because it seems like that's really valuable information, but I don't TikTok. I would love to see it though.
I put the link at the top.
At that point. I'm not at that point yet. I'm trying to get to a certain level there, and then I'm gonna start mass distributing every single video that I made to all the platforms.
I just shared one of the Altero reviews to Instagram because they have an Instagram following. I want to see what might happen because they don't have a lot of activity on their socials, which tells me that if you create content and at them, someone's gonna see it.
Someone's gonna see it, dude. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They're not that big too.
No.
They're
And I
not that
like the
big of a
use
company.
case. What better use case of a hiking boot for a tradesperson? Like that's a gorgeous untapped market there. Come on.
Come on, dude. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm fucking saying. Like any sort of gear that I can fucking use in the
Yeah,
fucking
the hell.
field.
You should. You know how they have the VC starter pack with the Patagonia vest, right? And a copy of 0 to 1. You should have the HVAC
Yes,
starter
the
pack.
HVAC fucking one. Exactly, dude. I hate those fucking dudes that wear the
You don't like
Patagonia.
those vests?
Fuck. When I see that hat, I'm just like, oh my fucking god. I'm like the hat and the matching fucking flannel, bro. Like,
You got to wear that like Fidel Castro baseball
nah, I'm
cap. You
not
know,
gonna
like
lie. I'm
no,
kind of jealous, bro, because they look kind of fresh. They look kind of fresh with those.
no, because you're Spanish. You got to wear that Cypress Hill bucket hat.
I gotta wear the fucking bucket. I have one of those too.
I know you have one of those. Yeah, I'm gonna create the Ruckus starter pack and the Mister Rudge starter pack.
Oh shit, Ruckus is fucking rocking the Kango hat too.
Uh huh. Yeah, you know it. That's the brand. You know, the people with Kangol hats, they have like a secret society. They just nod to each other.
But it's a up nod. It's a up nod.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The down
the
nod,
Kangol hat is. Uh-huh.
the Kango hat's the up nod. The down nod is like, if you see someone and you're just trying to be respectful, you're like, good day, sir.
I
Good day,
like that
young sir.
I like that the Kangol hat could be to Ruckus as the Patagonia vest is to VCs. Like Ruckus being a class of people. Go ahead, Marco.
Oh, I just put some food in my mouth. I just wanted to say to Mr. Roger. Oh, first of all, Twitter doesn't like me going on to TikTok. It kicks, boosts me out.
They're
Yeah,
jealous.
they're jealous. But Mr. Roger, I have subscribed to you on TikTok, and I just have one thing I want to say to you, dude. I am feeling your content.
Appreciate it, bro. I told you, Mike. I told you. Didn't I? Weren't we talking about this yesterday? Didn't you say that Ali said it's not the way it's not what you say, but it's how you make people feel.
It's not what you do for people, it's how you make them feel. Yeah, Ali taught me that. Marco, is there any, like, how did the channel make you feel?
Made me feel happy. I felt happy. His smiling face right at the beginning. I just watched the first video. He did a little explainer around the technician bit. And I listened to a bit more, but the bit that stuck with me was when he said, if you're feeling my content, that stuck with me. That made me happy, which is why I quoted it back at him.
Appreciate it.
You're going to have 1,000 in the next 2 days. So what does that mean for you now that you've gone to 1,000? What happens next?
Nothing. Just keep doing the same thing.
But,
Bro, I'm
but
trying
you
to.
have guests.
It
But you
feels
have the
good.
guest stars coming up for the lives.
Oh, I know, dude. But you know how that's gonna be. It's gonna be another Syndicate show. Come on. There. Nah,
This episode
there's some cool.
sponsored by Altera. That's right, Altera. Are your feet hurting after a long day of HVACing?
Ultra, bro. You're fucking it up.
Okay, I fucked up the name. See, this is why I can't be the
God damn
spokesperson.
it, bro. They're gonna fucking they're like, yeah, you're pronouncing the name right.
Hold on, wait a minute. Why don't you
His
just roll
coaching
your own
superior.
version of shoes? How difficult
Are you
is it to
guys
make your own shoes?
Altera.
are you guys talking about going live on TikTok?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me know how that goes for you, because I tried it a while back and it was like the majority of it seemed okay. So I would end up with like thousands of people in my room with nobody commenting, or just like a handful of people. and it all seemed like programmed comments. Like I don't know. I just sort of lost interest with it because it just didn't seem like there wasn't even the possibility that they might be real people talking to you. So
What kind of following did you cultivate?
I just didn't. I never really, to be honest, my TikTok was mostly for myself. I would make videos as they came up, as like thoughts came up. Kind of the same way that I do my spaces, honestly. I just like whatever comes up and whatever comes to my mind gets vomited out. So I have a place to do that. But it's not really about who listens to it or
Maybe it's vomit in, vomit out. You think?
yeah, bullshit in, bullshit out. I'll
So
agree
the,
with that.
the reason I asked that is because Mr. Raj has a very focused channel. He just focuses on HVAC, and so his journey to 1,000 has been bolstered by the pre-existing HVAC community that exists there, and he kind of sticks out as a sore thumb as a 6 foot 11 Spanish conquistador Mexican.
Now that is probably why I have the type of following that I have over there, because mine is a absolute hodgepodge mess. Uh, there is no there's no organization. It's just what I happen to be focusing on that day. Some of it's politics, some of it's, art, some of it's AI stuff, programming stuff.
Okay, well, yeah. So I think I mean, if you were able to attract enough followers to go live, it means that people are fundamentally interested in you. The thing I see with Mr. Raj that interests me is that um, he was able to, within the span of 30 to 40 days,
Mm-hmm.
grow a channel that was focused on a very, very specific niche,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I'm just thinking about every brand that I'm in touch with and using Mr. Rogers' ascent on TikTok kind of as like a way for people to learn that I don't need a microphone, I don't need a green screen, I don't need someone to hold my camera. I just need me, my phone, and my expertise.
Exactly. Yeah, let me know how that goes for you, because maybe that was my issue, because I don't know. I gained 1,000 followers, I think it was a month or two, I think. But, in the Clean Talk community, they they literally follow every single person. Like if you go and you attend Clean Talk lives and stuff, everybody follows you. So it's that's not very impressive. But yeah, let me know how that goes for you, because I'd like to know if that's maybe why I did not cultivate the following that I was hoping for.
What would you, if you were to have all of the followers that you wanted, what type of followers would you want and what would they be interested in?
Just people talking with relevant information about the topic at hand, because there's a lot of times I would go in with a topic in my head, and a lot of the commenters come in with these right wing. That's why I'm saying it. They seem like they're bot accounts.
When you say right wing, what type of topics were you talking about?
Um, Sometimes it was politics. Sometimes it was just the possibility for AI generated art. Sometimes it was, I just did various topics. But you would have the bots come in with like these off the wall comments of "How's the weather?" You're like, dude,
That's not so
that's
much different than what we experience here.
yeah, yeah.
Right, I could add Crow or I could add Alaskoshi, and we would have much the same experience. It sounds like you're having in your comment section, Marco, Rockus.
Right. I think a lot of it, I was so used to having a co-host, so we would have like we would have conversations, and then the commenters would be secondary to the primary conversation that was going on on the stage. And that's kind of what you guys have here, is that you have a primary conversation going on stage, and then you have these weirdos that jump in with, "Hey, so how's the weather?" you know, and it's okay for the weirdos to jump in.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, I don't think there's ever a primary conversation. It's just whatever. Like for instance, we're talking about, you know, your TikTok and how it didn't do so well. So, I mean, that's the new primary conversation, I guess.
It's fluid.
Well, I
It's
think
always,
Rocket.
yeah, it's fluid. Exactly, it's fluid.
I
Rockers, go
think it
ahead.
went really well, actually, because it got the desired effect. I spent a lot of time cultivating followers, and um, I'd grow accounts, and then I'd dump them, and I'd start all over again. And you get addicted to the commentary and the engagement, the likes, the views, the shares. You get addicted to that. And it's like, I enjoy the content that I make, the way that I'm making it right now. I was just curious as to why certain accounts do better than others
I mean, you
doing
can
the
go watch.
same kind.
I mean, you could just. I mean, honestly, I think it's just the personality of the person. I mean, if you had a big following already and you just dumped it, I mean, I mean, personally, if I had a big following already, I wouldn't just dump it. I mean, I have people that are, watching the stuff, looking to me for good information and stuff like that, and you just dump them, off to this. That's the thing about TikTok, though, right? That's the reason I like it, is because it's more raw. It's more raw. It's a little bit more personal. It's a little bit more intimate. People get to see me actually talk. Like Twitter's cool, but I don't get to, like, when I talk to people, especially on Twitter, like people can misperceive what I'm saying or the message that I'm saying because they can't see the emotion behind it. But on TikTok, I'm able to, put my emotions in it, change my tone of voice, pitch my voice up or down depending on my feelings. I'm able to do a lot of like face-to-face interaction stuff, and that's what I'm kind of playing with. Is I'm trying to talk to the camera and talk to the people like on the camera as if they're like right there in front of me.
Mhm.
So that's
Uh,
probably what's been working for me, is I'm able to connect to people on a more personal level because I'm literally doing my content as if I am in the room right next to you, talking to you as if we're buddies. Like
right.
kind of like the
I
big brother, big motivator that certain people don't have. Like I don't just talk about HVAC stuff too. I talk about confidence stuff. Like I talk about, I have a video that I'm gonna that I want to make about, leaving the work, leaving your work at the door when you go home. Because our industry, in our industry, we work a lot of hours and sometimes it could be stressful. We might have a customer that pisses us off, and you don't want to take that stuff home to your family, because that's your family. Why should something affect you like that? And but the thing is that these young kids that are coming into our trades, as Marco was saying, they don't get those talks. They're not getting that same unconditional love, those hard talks that we were having back in the day, because they're stuck to an iPad and they're not really doing anything. So when they go into the workforce, they don't know anything about life because nothing's being taught to them about life, and they don't get those, I guess, those like fatherly talks or stuff like that. So if I can be a father figure or a big brother or even just a mentor on there, like I don't have to be super technical with what I'm talking about. I just have to be able to connect with my audience.
I think the oh, thank you. Um
Sorry, Mr.
oh,
Ruckus, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
oh.
No, I was just thinking about. I don't have a TikTok, but I do want to set one up, I guess. And I would go about it just kind of setting it up. But it sounds like, what would be. I know. Is there a way to set it up for engagement? I do. I can do hear Venus.
Are you doing this for yourself or other brands as an experiment?
Exactly. So it's just for myself. So that's a great question.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, But
How do you get the plot ID from a TikTok user ID?
you're right. So yeah,
I know what you're thinking, you
no,
devious data scientist.
well, Venus's issue is just engagement. It's just engagement. But you know, it's interesting because typically, in the past with social media, we've just gone in, add your email address, create your username, and boom, you start, you know, surfing or looking for content that you want to see. So is it better just to not do anything, or you know, look for, you know, how do you get tied to the engagement that you're looking for? I guess organically.
You're so what you so what you're gonna do
So I'm
is
going to interrupt since my hand was up, Mr. Rogers, sir. Thank
Oh,
you.
Latinx
go
versus
ahead, go ahead,
Latinx.
go ahead, whatever. I don't like to argue,
Oh,
but
I think that the people who have had a a following of less than 40,000 do not understand the compulsion to just walk away from content that you've outgrown and walk away from a following that you've outgrown, because a lot of times your following will prevent you from growing anymore. You'll be stuck. You see it in Hollywood a lot of times where people refuse to play certain roles again because they get typecast. In social media, it's a lot easier for that to happen because they're expecting a very specific kind of content from you. Um, if you're in the middle of, let's say you're in the middle of a divorce, you're con- the growth that you go through through the process of a divorce is phenomenal. The loss of a child, and a lot of times those things are not appropriate for like a feel good type of content creator would not be able to have these discussions with their following. So they create a new one so that they can go and recreate an open platform for them to grow in, because the other one is stifling. And
I
I
already
also
have that.
don't think that you understand how demanding sometimes the following can get when you get above 40,000. It starts right around 20, 30,000, but it gets really bad about 40,000. And if you don't know how to manage that, when you start getting 100,000, 200,000 and beyond, it takes a huge, huge toll on your mental health. Yes, I will
Sorry,
walk
Ruckus.
away from my following for my mental health.
Ruckus,
Absolutely.
can you read the title?
You can do whatever you like. You can you can do whatever. Cheesy.
Yeah, say it like Jeezy, though.
And you can do whatever you like. You can do whatever you like.
If what you're doing is failing for you and you're happy with that, go right ahead. Sean?
Exactly.
you know what I do though, right? And if it was overwhelming for you, I just turn the notifications off. I turn the notifications off on all social media. Like Mike won't hear from me for days because I don't respond to him because my notifications are off on Twitter, my notifications are off on TikTok, because I know that if the notification is there, then I'm going to be more reluctant to look at it. So I just don't have it on. I don't get messages, I don't get nothing. If I
That
miss if
doesn't
I
work. That doesn't work when you get to that level of the 40,000 and beyond. It
Well,
doesn't
maybe it
work.
didn't work for you. I mean, you're insinuating that I'm the same person as you and I'm not. Like I'm far from the same person as you.
I'm not
I'm not
insinuating that at
saying that.
all. I'm
Yeah,
just
but
saying
you
that
are. But you are.
until you've
You're
had
saying that I won't
that
be. Yeah,
kind of a
you're saying
following, you can't possibly understand.
I don't
So
have to
there's a lot of
understand
judgment
because
that you
maybe it didn't
receive
work from
from
you.
walking away and taking care of your mental health.
That's I
You know,
understand that, but you're not giving
but
advice.
it's
You're
not
telling me
like
what
you're
to do.
walking away from your followers. You're not like dumping on them. You're
Yeah, but
saying,
you're not
hey,
giving
my mental
advice though.
health
You're
is
just
far
telling
more
me what I need to,
important.
what I'm gonna do. You're telling me what I'm gonna do.
No, I'm telling you what I'm doing. I never
No,
said what you're going to do.
you're
Now you're
literally
insinuating
insinuating.
that, you're
No,
inferring
you're
that, but
insinuating that because you keep saying until I get to 40,000 followers that I'm not gonna
why
understand.
are you so mad, bro? Oh my God.
I'm not mad. I'm not
It
mad
was
at all.
it was just a comment. Seriously, I was just commenting on my own personal experience and the experience that I have shared with other people, not on yours at all. And the inability for you to understand where that's at from where you are. We have a
I mean,
completely different
for all I
opinion.
know, everything that you're saying, you're just blowing smoke up my butt. I mean, I have no idea who you are, Venus. I don't know anything about you. Only the face that you provide to me on the internet. You could be a keyboard warrior. I don't know who you are, and you're over here trying to tell
I
me
could
stuff.
be. I totally could be.
You could be.
But I'm not, I swear. I'm not like blowing smoke up your ass. I'm not like trying to light you up or anything. I wasn't trying, but
But I
clearly
mean,
I'm
but
damn
listen,
good at
but
it.
but you do it a lot. I don't think you see it. I don't think you can see it, but you do it a lot.
What I'm saying is that I'm not trying though, because
I know you're
people
not
come
trying,
after
but
me
maybe
and
say
they say that like, you just piss people off. Well, wait a second. I wasn't trying though. I
it's
was
okay
just
because
sitting
I'm the
here,
same
bro.
way. I'm very opinionated and
What the fuck?
I say things a certain way too, but I mean if you're gonna give someone advice, you'd be like, hey, just when you get to
I wasn't
40,000
giving
followers,
advice though. If that's how you received what I
No, but you
said,
were.
it
You were
was
saying
not
you were giving
advice.
advice.
you
You're
were giving advice. Ruckus, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to touch on what Mr. Rogers was saying about, and Venus was saying about engagement and being able to handle the your followers. Um, when I had a Tumblr when it first started, it about 10 years ago when it was really popping, a friend of mine, we had gotten 50,000 followers. And one of the ways we had gotten it, we just accidentally was talking to Frank Ocean, and we were talking to a movie producer. Just fluke, right? And so we got the followers that way. And to Mr. Rogers' point, I remember my wife was like, my notifications were kept going off, kept going on and going on, and you had to turn those off. And um, it does get a little draining, having that following, I guess, one, and then not knowing what to do with it once you get it, being able to maintain that following, because it's like, there are steps to maintaining it. And so what we ended up doing was there was like a shift to Instagram. So we lost like half of those followers because we didn't keep up with Tumblr to Instagram, which was kind of a blessing because it was, half of that was very manageable, more manageable than having um, you know, the 100,000 that we had amassed. And I think a lot of it is when you start curating your quality instead of just throwing crap out there.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly to Mike's point. Mine is catered to a specific niche. It's HVAC. That's an entire industry, and you know how much I have within that industry that I can play with? A fuck ton. I could start going to manufacturing facilities with this thing, tour the facilities, take my followers there. I can do more stuff than you can talk about with politics, mainstream media, and all that stuff. Like I'm actually doing a service to the world. I'm not just talking
Well,
about it.
the other thing too that's different is that what Mr. Rogers is doing is completely focused on his own experience and doesn't rely on a single
And trying to light
co-host.
me up because the undermining of my content versus his, both of the contents are absolutely valuable. I follow HVAC people, but I also follow people who do feel good content. I follow people who do spiritual enlightenment content, and all of it's valuable. All of it's equally valuable, in my opinion.
Is it
Not really, right? Like what Mr. Raj has is content designed for a very specific niche, and
And
kind of
that's
what we're
fine, but
yeah,
there's value in all kinds of content. You have the
not really.
Syndicate here,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's not very
it's
valuable.
not,
This.
yeah, I think
it's kind of valuable.
I think
Yeah,
there,
I think it's valuable.
no, I think they're making a point over quality than quantity. Like there isn't really a lot of value in quantity, but there can be tremendous value in quality, especially if it's niche, and I think that is the lesson, or what you guys are both making the same point, I think, you know what I mean? But, Would you rather want quantity, a lot of, or you want quality?
Look, I'm
I'd
just
rather
saying
have a
that
niche.
anybody can have a. I'm just saying anybody can have opinion on politics. Not everybody can talk about what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, it's true. Especially from your perspective. It actually
Especially
doesn't
from my,
exist.
yeah,
It doesn't
especially
exist.
from my fucking perspective with my fucking flavor on it, my style, everything that I do. Like
Okay.
there's not another Mr. Roger out there.
There's not.
And you're
There's
like,
There
not.
isn't. Not on this topic. I would challenge anyone to find me the top 10 Spanish HVAC at your age, because you're also a millennial too. So you have an embedded audience that's the largest demographic cohort in the U.S. and about to be the largest speaking population in the U.S. in about 10 years.
yes, yes. And you're
You're
like,
a data scientist. Listen, this guy is salivating over the numbers.
I once asked my speech teacher in college, what makes a good actor or an actress, and he simply was like, if people like you. You know what I mean? At the time, Dan on Roseanne was very, very, very popular, and I'm like, we were talking, discussing Dan, the husband, and then there was Brad Pitt. Well, both were likable. Dan was just very likable guy, and that's where his popularity came from. That's where his value came from. And Mr. Rogers is just a variable. He's very likable. He, gets his point across, and he's able to speak to an audience that likes him, which is a success. It can be a success.
But here's the thing about it too is that I'm not trying to just target people just to like me. Like I make very controversial like content within our industry. Like I talk about, these older technicians that are being shitty to younger tech. I talk about a lot of different systemic stuff within our industry too that's controversial, and people don't talk about that stuff either. So it's not like I'm trying to get only people that I like. I'm trying to change perspectives and give people a fresh look on what it is to what we do, how to communicate with customers. There's a lot of different things that go on, and it's the same like that with every industry, right? But when it comes down to it, if you're gonna do like for instance, if you're gonna have a page that's specific to tech and IT and stuff like that, which I follow these guys like that do that, and that's all they do. They don't deviate from that, but they talk about all the different issues within that same sector. It's not
Yeah,
all over the place.
when I go to a school and I want to teach them math, I don't teach them math. When I want to teach them business, I don't teach them business. I play whatever their favorite song is,
Didn't
right?
Shan have something to say and we kind of like
Hey, Sean.
stomped on his voice?
We stomp on each other's voices. That's part of the game. Hey, Sean.
I was just listening while I'm doing some work. No, I think there is a two side of the coin to this the whole things. I personally wouldn't bump up my followers and dump them, and that's not authentic in any way. But then you could argue you can bump up beyond your capabilities and pivot to something else and change subject or something like that and monetize your followers. And then the other ones are the Rogers ones. I have to agree. If it's niche and people will keep on come back to Rogers, then because they know what they're getting, and whereas on the other side, they don't know what they're getting. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I have other pages too. I have another page called Mr. Rogers Livelihood where I talk about bullshit, and I have one called Mr. Rogers Dances where I fucking dance.
Probably probably you want to stick
Well,
to what you do.
to
You know
be
what I mean?
clear,
So
I have people that have been following me for like 20 years. So the followers were not
20
quote
years,
unquote
the phone wasn't
dumped.
even out for 20 years.
Honey, the
The
social
internet.
media has been around for 35 years.
Who's been following you for 20 years?
I had, oh
What
my
social media
gosh,
platform did you have 20 years ago that people were following you?
we had Yahoo Chat, we had ICQ, we had MSN Messenger, we had
Yes, but that's
blog
not
post.
following. Those are just friends.
Those are followers, yeah, and they've continued to follow my content for the past 20 years.
Friends. Those are friends.
Those are
If
not
you're messaging back and forth, they're your friends. On
those
Messenger,
are
they're your friends.
those are not friends.
Well,
Those are people that
Mike
have
is
been
now my
following
friend.
for
I don't
20
know Mike
years.
personally, and I message Mike back and forth. He's my buddy.
Right.
yeah,
No
But
I'm not
longer
about
just a
to.
so
follower. He's not a
I'm
fucking
not about to
follower.
buy an HVAC system
on
anytime soon, right?
on with what I was saying, the content changed and my ability to control the access on some of the accounts, I had to abandon those accounts because people were showing up at my house, people were, doing all sorts of things. So it became a mental health thing on top of real world life crap that I was dealing with. So we started new accounts that dealt with things like the divorce that I was going through, the miscarriages that I was having, because I've had 13 miscarriages, and you can't really talk about that in a feel good setting, you know. At least you'll lose those followers anyway. So it's better to start up another account like you have done. You have multiple accounts, and sometimes you stop working certain accounts because they just don't vibe with you anymore. It's not dumping your followers. They can come too if they want. They can come on over here, but here is going to be high security. Here is going to be, more of an open way of me communicating what the things that I need to communicate, not what my followers need me to communicate, because that's another thing that we get into as creators is creating for other people instead of creating for ourselves and putting ourselves and our needs in that mix, not as superior, but in that mix someplace.
You're listening to the Syndicate. You can do whatever you like. Yeah. Starting up a channel, going on to talk. What do you want to do?
Yeah,
Trying to stop the
Exactly.
clock.
I just think I mean I'm not like I said. I just think that you said that you couldn't maintain the following and it was bad for your mental health. I feel like if I ever got to that point, like isn't that the point of growth, right? For us to go through things and for our perspectives and stuff like that to change. And if your followers don't understand that and you lose a bunch of followers, I mean, fuck them. You're making like literally me.
Right.
I'm
That's
not
why I
making the
said,
like I said, I'm
you
making the
know what,
content
I'm
for
going to value
whoever.
me over, a
Exactly.
bunch of little blips on the screen. And I'm
Hmm.
going to create new accounts. I'm going to create a new life. Because when I separated from my husband, that was stage one. When we divorced, that was stage two. Stage three was me recreating myself. And by the time you got to stage three, hmm, yeah,
Yeah,
I
but I
did
mean
not fit in
but
that role
but
anymore.
that
I
might
go back and
apply
I
to.
visit my old friends from high school. We have absolutely nothing in common. I go back and I visit my old friends from college. We have absolutely nothing in common. We don't really talk anymore. We don't really communicate anymore. Not because they're bad people or that I hate them or anything, but they went one way, I went another. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't know why we put the pressure on creators telling them that they are quote unquote inauthentic, because that's the wording that Shan used, inauthentic, and putting pressure on them to maintain this box that they no longer fit into. No, build yourself a new box, babe. Go and find yourself a new, you know what? Go get yourself a triangle. And you jump into that.
Go ahead, Ruckus.
I do have a question for Mr. Rogers. Have you considered your scale, or when you do scale? Um, let's say you're comfortable what the followers or the engagements that you have now. But what if you do scale to 50, 100,000? Is there a plan for that?
Nah, not really. There's no plan. I'm just kind of going with the flow. See what happens. I mean, dude, if I worry, dude, I got a family, bro. I'm just
Well,
making this content to help, help out these younger guys and see what the fuck it is. And if they like the industry, they can jump in. I'm not doing this to teach people, all the different. You have to go to school still. In our industry, you still got to go to school. You still got to get training. You still got to go through all these things. I'm just giving people insight into what it is, what we're doing, how I do certain things. A homeowner, I'm giving homeowners a perspective from my perspective on why, you know, you should be on the lookout for these things if somebody goes to your house and tells you that, hey, this needs to be done like this. I'm doing a lot of the stuff that I would do if I went to a customer's house, and I'm trying to give the people the same experience that I would if I was to go to your, like, let's say I went to your house. Let's say I went to your house. When I go to people's houses, I try to make it an experience, right? I joke around, I find things to talk about. If I see them have a nice, like, something in their house, like, I'm like, oh man, this is a beautiful home. Holy crap. Like, like, I do a lot of different things because I want the customer to either to have like like 100% of an experience with me as the main character. But the thing is that I don't really care about who knows, maybe my perspective will change, right? Maybe it will change, and maybe I do, see something bigger, or maybe I do hate it, like Venus said, right?
You
The
know,
thing is that your content right now with your, what you see as a pitiful 1,000 followers, I don't see it as a pitiful 1,000 followers. I have just barely over 1,000 followers, and I've been there for almost 2 years. I got my little 1,000 and like really quickly, and then it just kind of trickled down. Mostly because I didn't go live, I
Oh,
just
no,
continued
I don't think
making
it's a
videos and
pitiful.
stuff.
I don't think it's a
But do
pitiful
not
1,000.
allow those followers to dictate whether or not your content has value. My content has value without my 300,000 followers. Okay? My content has value with 0 followers. Your
Oh yeah,
content has value with
everybody's content
0
has value.
followers, with 0 likes, with 0 everything, because it's yours. Period.
Yes, I
I
like that.
wasn't, I
I like
wasn't
that.
saying, I wasn't trying to explain as a worry, more like just a plan. That's all. I
Oh,
mean,
a plan. Nah, bro.
and it's okay if you don't, but
I don't. I
okay,
don't. I
that's fine.
mean,
That's fine.
I think the next plan that I'm doing is I'm talking to my wife right now to see if I can set up an Amazon affiliate program so I can link it to my page for tools and stuff like that. That way the guys can start buying the same tools that I have, and maybe do like for shoes and stuff like that, gear. Maybe I can get a little stipend from that. But I
So
mean, as
you
for
are
like
growing it then. That's great because that's,
hmm
you know what I mean? Like that's what Tumblr had. Like they had a wish list. So there
hmm
were people making a lot of money, you know what I mean, contributing to their wish list. So that's good that you're progressing in that in your on your channel.
Yeah, I mean, I have plans and stuff. I mean, like I said, I don't like to talk about that type of stuff with other people because I like to just. I'm starting to learn that the more I speak it out into the world, shit doesn't go right. So I just like to keep. I'm just starting to keep it under wraps, and just keep it to myself. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and anything business wise, I'll just talk to my wife about it because she's. I mean, that's really the only person that I can really talk to about certain things. But yeah, I mean, I'm just going with the flow, man. I really don't even care if I get 1 million followers, if I get 100 followers, if I lose all my followers. I mean, it's just whatever. I'll just keep going. Like I said, I've already had people message me and tell me that they appreciate my work, and that's all I need. I mean, it was like, I get people all the time. Thank you so much. I didn't know this. Appreciate it. Awesome tips, man. Thank you. Like, that's the stuff that I like. And then I like their back and forth with other technicians because it's always, it's always one of my things. Like, okay, how does this guy do things? All right. And then the thing is that there's a lot of guys that in our industry that they'll talk shit to you and tell you that you're fucking wrong, but they won't provide any solutions. And that's another thing I'm trying to tackle. Like, I want people in my thing, if you're gonna comment, like at least if you're gonna comment about something, don't just bitch about it. Provide me a solution, because this is the trade that we're in. Shouldn't we all be trying to help each other out since there's a fucking labor shortage? You know what I mean? Instead of talking shit to each other all the time.
The truth is that is the nature of the internet, is that people are literally getting paid for the negative comments on your stuff. Um, I'm not sure exactly how that works, but there's agencies that are paying for that, and some of those are bots that they have absolutely their comments that they're leaving. They look like they're of value, but they're not necessarily of value. The only thing they're valuable for is flaming you and lighting you up, you know? And if
No,
you
these are
keep
like
letting them light you
no,
up,
no, no.
then
These aren't like bots. These are actual like seasoned veterans with 50 years of experience coming at my fucking throat, telling me that I'm a part of the Dunning Kruger effect.
oh my God.
Yeah,
But you know what? Consider the
it's not
source.
it's not like I'm telling you, it's like I don't care because I know my self worth. And if you've been around me long enough and if you heard me speak enough, like I really could give a shit, two shits what anybody says. Like after we get off this thing, the conversation that you and I just had, it's probably gonna go into the back of my head, lock it away, and I'm probably never gonna think about it until we speak about it again. And that's just something I had to develop for myself to keep myself in check and not have to worry about what the fuck other people are thinking. Like, you know what I mean? Like I literally will our conversation that we had, it'll just go out the window until we speak again. Like everything that we're talking about with you guys, I won't think about it. And as soon as I get off here, I'm not going to think about it anymore. But that's just the way that built up my defense mechanism for myself, so I don't have to be letting all these things stress me out all the fucking time. Because like I said, I got a family, I got kids, I actually I got other responsibilities besides just being on here talking to you guys and stuff like that. I mean, if I allowed this stuff to interfere with my personal life, I mean, fuck, I just don't know how I would be able to handle it with three kids and a wife at home that just had a baby. I have a house that I have to maintain. I'm on a very strict budget because I'm the only one that works in my family. Like I have a lot of other things that I have to worry about for the survival and the basic needs of to provide the basic needs to my family. That I just, if it gets to the point where I have to shut it down, like you said, maybe I will. Maybe I will.
Well, if someone could explain to me what it was and how it was that I said something that caused the explosiveness, because this is not just on social media that I experienced this. I was just last week, I was at like a Walgreens and I told this dude to back up because I had been sick and I was looking out for bro. This fool went to like 16 levels of pissed off and started, calling me names and everything and trying to trigger me, trying to get me out of myself. So if somebody could explain to me what it
Have
is
you
that I say and how I say it
have you
that
ever?
is
Yeah,
triggering people,
it's not what you
that would
say.
be
It's how
nice.
you say it. It's not what you say. It's how you say it. You're very. It's not bad either. I mean, you have a strong personality, and I can hear it in your voice. But and I have a strong person. Something like yesterday, we were having a conversation with this chick named Elf, and I was saying things, but to her, she was perceiving it like completely the wrong fucking way, like the whole fucking wrong way. And then until Mike came in and rephrased it and said it a nicer way, then everybody was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And I'm just like, "Well, fuck, I said the same shit." You know what I mean? But I'm the one.
It
But I'm the
You
one that
mean
looks bad.
L Mike's bot?
No, Elf. It was this. It was a person named Elf in here talking. But
Yeah, isn't she one of Mike, isn't she one of your bots? Quit playing. Stop it.
no, that's not an elf. I don't know. Maybe knows. She's a plant. But anyways, no. I mean, if you told the dude, if you looked at the dude and said back off, then yeah, I could see how he got fucking mad. But if you said, hey sir, can you back up a little bit? I was sick and I don't want to get you sick. That's a completely different phrase
He
versus
didn't even let me get
back
that
off.
far. He didn't even let me get that far. It was just like, sir, could you please back up? Oh, what was this? Oh God. And then he saw that I had like an EBT card and he tried to light me up over the EBT card. What you want to see your benefit pin number? I'm like, is this dude for real? Like, I'm being set up right now. Where is Ashton? Where is Ashton?
Give me
Because
an
I
EBT
know I'm
card.
getting punked right now. You know,
Let me
like
get
I
you my
have that
EBT.
experience a lot.
No, let me get some of that EBT. I need some. I wish I could qualify for food stamps. I can't. It sucks being middle class.
Well, you guys, I think that is it for me. It's about to get busy in here. So I will see everybody soon. Thank you for having me again, Mike.
Laters. Have a good one.
Roger, I think that's pretty cool that you have that channel. You make me want to start a TikTok. So
Yeah, man, you should start one. Fuck
I,
every dude. Don't listen to her, bro. Like, she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. The thing is that a lot of people let bad experience and bad experiences in life affect every fucking thing, bro. Like, dude, I've had bad experiences too. But I'm not gonna freaking say that I'm gonna fucking just dump my fucking followers. I'm gonna talk to my if my followers are following me because they like what the fuck I'm saying, then I'm gonna just be like, yo guys, I just had this fucking horrible experience. And if they're fucking understanding, they're understanding, and if not, they're pieces of fucking shits, and I'll just block them.
yeah. No, I think the lesson I had learned is that one of the things is just scale. And I'm like you have kids, so when my kids are babies, you're home, right? So what do? You just scroll, surf on the internet all day, right? And not all the time, but that just became a hobby, just on social media and stuff. So I completely understand, and I think I'm engaged with you as far as when you speak and you're explaining HVAC, which is very informative. So if it's successful for you, I think it could be moved to something more.
Mm-hmm.
We were
And
discussing the last night with the movies and the internet, and the internet brings a lot of opportunity that takes away from a lot of other things like other outlets. So if you could get guys, I know my sister-in-law buys she buys products from TikTok. I don't know how you do it, but that's how she gets things. She bought it on TikTok. She bought it on TikTok, what I mean, or bought it from TikTok. So I think that is really good that you have you're successful at it, already. So that's good.
yeah, and the funny thing is that I didn't even want to make one. I didn't even want to do a HVAC channel. The only reason I did one is because Mike convinced me. He said my wife was talking to me about it. She's like, "Why don't you do one for HVAC?" I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "I don't really want to. Like, I like my job, but it's not really my passion." And now, I mean, I have a whole different like look on it now because I didn't realize that there's a lot of uneducated people out there about HVAC. Like, holy crap! Like, because when I go to a house, when I go to someone's house and I go to look at their system, I also give them mini like education course on their stuff because I'm not trying to go back to your house because you don't know how to change out your filters. Like, you're a fucking homeowner, you're fucking older, you should be changing your own filters out. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like stuff like that, like irresponsibility on homeowners that they just can't take care of their shit and they're not doing stuff right, or they're freaking being irresponsible with their money and hiring some fucking Joe Schmo contractor because the price is low. Like, I talk about that stuff too. Like, like,
No, that's pretty cool because I mean, again, what you have to offer just in the spaces has been very valuable. And like Dan said, before he buys the unit, he give you a call. I would do the same. In fact, I'm going to get 3 estimates for our units that we have, and then just kind of see what you think, and for our units, and it's better to get those estimates when you don't need them than then you have to make a rash decision when you do need them.
I'm gonna be honest. Are you planning on doing it now?
We're not planning on doing it now.
Don't waste those guys' time if you're not gonna do it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, that's the one thing, like in our industry, like we get customers that want estimates and stuff like that, and then we go out there and then we're trying to do it, because the thing is, within our trade right now, there's a lot of volatility when it comes to pricing on equipment and stuff like that, because the manufacturers have been increasing the price like 8% here, 3% here, 4% here. Our labor might go up. We don't know exactly how, gas is going, gas is fluctuating right now. That's cutting into that's more overhead, so we got to adjust our pricing to, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that affects the price of the equipment. So like if you're gonna want to get a quote now, and then you're like, oh, but I'm not gonna get it done for 3 months from now, that price might be up like $1,000, $2,000.
I see. Okay. All right. That makes sense. Thank you.
So like,
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because that makes
yeah, yeah, and it's not. And I tell the customers, I always, and I tell them the same thing. Like whenever I talk to somebody, if I was at your house, I would literally tell you the same thing. Like don't get an estimate until you're ready to get it, because honestly, it's a waste of time. Because I'm gonna have to come back out.
Oh,
You
okay.
know.
So, yeah, well, like within 30 days.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, within 30 days, definitely.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you for helping me not waste your time. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because it's a free sir. It's a free. A lot of companies give free estimates, and we're out there just giving free estimates, and the homeowner doesn't even do it. I mean,
Yeah.
because they still got to pay me to go out there and give the estimate, right?
Yeah, that's true. I did not consider that. So there's another piece of value that you brought, a knowledge that you brought. I got to jump off for a meeting. I got a 4 o'clock meeting. So I'll hopefully you're here in a little bit. I'll see you then.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All
For
right.
sure.
Thanks for your knowledge.
Yeah, no worries. Damn you, Mike. What'd you get me into, bro?
That's so funny. That's my favorite. That's so funny. I have a channel that just failed, and so this is how you're gonna fail. So you better watch out, or you might fail like me. I'm not so sure.
Bro, that was, dude, and she was trying to say that she wasn't giving advice. I was just like,
Yeah, I'm like, every time you say you're giving advice. I'm not sure if you know that, but if you're telling a story about yourself, you can use me. No, but it's it is what it is. Like Ruckus says, you're growing a channel. Your channel is unique to you, and you're being your authentic self, and you're talking about something in a niche. It sounds like a recipe for success for me. It's just hard to find the people who are actually knowing what they're doing. Like, I'm a recruiter. If it was easy to find people who knew what they were doing, my whole entire career and industry wouldn't exist. But it turns out that a lot of people lie about what they can do. And so in a world of liars,
you want
you
to hear
need
me talk
someone.
to this customer real quick?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Let's see if he's answering the door. Please answer. I'll do the maintenance on the air conditioner.
Okay.
Yeah, your wife told me just to knock on the door so we can come in to get the stuff done. Oh yeah. I gotta get the thermostat. Gotta get the thermostat. How you been? Doing all right? Oh man, how's everything going with that? Oh man, did you end up selling that car? Remember to the Joker, for the Joker, the car. You had that car that. Oh, you've already sold those? You had one sitting in the car over there that you said that was like they put like a bunch of like I think you said they put like $1.2 million
Okay,
into
that was
it.
the 55.
The 55, yeah,
So
yeah.
I took that up to the good guys and ended up with a 56 Nomad.
Oh, that's right. This was here last time. Dude, I'm so jealous. Oh my God, this thing is so nice.
So by the time everything was said and done, they actually paid me $5,000 to take that car.
Heck yeah. Well, good. Well, that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and start outside. Is it okay if I open the garage so I can get in and out of there?
Yeah. The only thing I request you not
Is touch the car.
which I don't think you were that stupid.
Okay.
They had some guy from some other place that was working up there,
Uh-huh.
and he pulled apart the AC from that other, what do they call it, dehumidifier or whatever,
Yes, sir.
the thing with the water.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled that loose,
Okay.
emptied all the water out, completely flooded that right
Oh,
there.
I remember that. That's when you had to redo the whole ceiling.
Yeah, we had paint bubbles
Yeah.
this big.
I've been here like 5 times after that, so I think we should be good. All right, sir. Right. That guy was pretty dumb, huh? All right. All right. I'm back, Mike.
Oh, I love it. One second, just with Manish. Manish, say hi to Mr. Raj.
Hello, Mr. Raj. Is it Roger?
Yeah, Mr.
Okay.
Raj. R-A-J.
HVAC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Manish is showing me how to code in the background, building a mobile app. All right.
Oh, are y'all on Zoom?
Yeah.
Dude, you need to grow your TikTok already so we can do lives
Oh
together.
man, it's about to blow.
See, once I do the lives, bro, I'm gonna start taking customers with me. I'm gonna start taking people inside with me on my jobs.
Can't wait.
Like I'm gonna just have it face the camera facing the other way, and just have it in my shirt and just walk around. Or I don't know, actually. I don't know how that would work because I don't know if people would want their houses being filmed. I guess I could I guess I could ask them. I guess I could ask them, "Hey, do you mind if I film in your home?" Fuck no, my house is disgusting. Are you serious?
To GitHub,
Okay,
you have access to.
Can I do it all locally without using GitHub?
There's a clone Git repository already.
I just want to keep the code private, that's why.
It's private. GitHub is private.
Okay, GitHub is
Created a private repo.
I can create a private repo? Okay.
And you have the access, but you may have got the invitation to accept.
Okay, so if I go, I don't see it here.
In an email.
Going to my email.
Yes, still bad.
Mm-hmm. View invitation, accept invitation. So is this a way that we can use the same code base?
Yeah.
Interesting. So what do I do now?
Go back, hit the code, copy that, HTTPS, go back to Visual Studio Code, clone Git repo, paste that, enter, give it a folder, destination in like project, yes, allow, whatever, yeah. Well, that's it. Open this. Yeah, FPL pinged one URL, I think, on the chat. Not there. Yeah, I just did it now. Click on that.
Hey, see, bro, dude, do they have a? How do I do want to get into RC stuff. What's a good entry level? Because my son's already like he's 4, and I want to start teaching. I used to do those remember those X mods back in the day at Radio Shack?
All right, you want to go? You want to do Bashment outdoors? You want a truck, or you want to go airborne? What are you looking for? What air, land, or sea?
Probably just start off with like just a basic RC car, like a Traxxas or something like that.
Yeah, Traxxas and Arma, ARR. Those are the Traxxas is the go-to. Arma come up. They're not bad.
Yeah, there's a giant field behind our house, and my son, he's like at the age where I can start like getting stuff like that. So I think it'll be cool. Do you and your kids do that together, or is it
Oh
just
yeah.
your hobby?
No. We go for walks with the crawler. My son calls the crawler truck his buddy. And then my buddy and I want to go for a walk in the woods, Dad. So go for a walk.
Dude, I know, dude. I'm so jealous. I always see those bogging tournaments with the RC cars on YouTube.
Dude, the crawler section of RC
It's
is
so
big.
awesome, dude.
Dude, it's super, and the community is pretty cool too.
Dude, even the intricacy that they build their the little obstacle courses on stuff on there. Have you seen that? They have like
You
two.
mean how many have I myself built? Quite a few.
Oh, you've done them. Look at you.
Oh, dude,
Yeah,
I
but you
got all
have
the.
all that land. That's a thing.
Oh, but before I had that, dude, there's plenty of places in the Northeast that are trail comp, trail walk, crawl comp, you name it. Oh, sorry, can you hear me still? Oh, sorry, mic check. 1 2 1 2. Oh, my mic got all screwed up there. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Raj dropped down. Shit. I was ready to geek out on some RC. Taking a break from clearing the driveway from the rather heavy snowfall. Mr. Raj, what are you doing down in Listener, man? He's probably working. Well, poop.
Let me switch your mouth one sec.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
Yeah. He might be coming back. He might
All
be
right.
at work.
Mm-hmm.
What are you working on? It sounds like
I'm
you
just
got.
with Manish. He's teaching me how to build
I
an
was
app.
about to say, it sounds like you got Manish on the other line. Dude, I am
Mm-hmm.
struggling so bad trying to format the Excel spreadsheet into CSV and keep everything together.
Oh, come on.
Fuck
I'm
off.
gonna join on my computer.
Okay. Yeah. You free? You want to do this now? I'm with Manish.
I got to finish clearing the driveway, and I've got a
Yeah.
interview coming up at 5.
In my email, so I can join on my computer.
Oops.
All love, bruv. Catch you on the flip. I'm going to go back to it.